welcome to Burnout Culture. This episode is going to be called The Sleepy Cast.
No, it's not.
It's not?
No, it's not. It's going to be called Yellowface 2.
Oh my god, yeah. Cause sorry, I am like so fucking tired from like SGF still and reviewing Elden Ring that I totally forgot. There were 3 instances this week of 3 different white people pretending to be Asian.
That's a lot. Hey, that's a lot.
Yes.
That is
Yes.
too frequent of an amount for that to be happening.
Yes. So yeah, do we want to just hop into it? Wait a minute. Hang on. Wait a second. We need to introduce ourselves.
I mean,
Oh, that's true.
hi, I'm GC Vasquez.
Hi, I'm Cullen Black.
Hey, I'm Kazuma.
That was very cheery, GC.
Yeah, now they won't believe it, especially if they read that Elden Ring review.
Oh, fuck. Where I'm just like, sitting with my feelings, that game is fine. But yeah, no, so now that it's the after SGF podcast, I get to talk about SGF stuff again, like in full detail, because all of my embargoes have lifted.
Sick.
So we can actually talk about things that I saw at the event alongside the Yellowface thing. Kellen, do you want to explain kind of what happened in the gaming sphere regarding this? And then I'll follow up with what happened in the book publishing sphere.
Sure. Famous industry leaker Midori turns out to be some person. I'm going to say person just to start with, who used to go by Mystic Distance on Twitter. If you know them, that name, that means that they in particular were someone who would often be on the front line of like Persona news. They would translate Persona things. They wrote for Persona Central. And if you've been online long enough, because I'm constantly reminded that we have a new generation of youngins who just hopped on the internet around 2019, they were a bit clout hungry. And after getting another Persona influencer canceled because these Persona fans love drama.
What the fuck?
Yeah, no, there was a Persona YouTuber, I think, said a bunch of slurs or something and like threatened to kill Mystic. That's besides the point. Then like something later, Mystic just left the internet, but it turns out Mystic only left the internet to rebrand as a leaker on Twitter named Midori. And Midori claimed to be a Japanese woman who did not know English that well and had contacts inside of the industry. So for about 2 years, I'd say, we were getting regular leaks from Midori about like Sega properties. It was mostly Sega for a bit. And I think after a while, they started to expand to like Nintendo, things like that.
Oh, God. Okay.
But apparently people were cooking in the background and then found out through investigation that they were the same person. Like I noticed people right away grabbed onto the whole like, oh, you're pretending to be a girl. That's fucked up. It's just some guy. And it's like, I don't want to drag the like, I guess whatever
that doesn't matter because
no,
we
that
honestly don't
matter.
know. No.
Yes.
What the important thing is, and this is what I said when I forgot who was it shared it, but I was like, so they've been pretending to be a Japanese person this entire time, tweeting in broken English.
Yes.
Why do they sound like my mother? Like,
it's unfortunately people grabbed on to the pretend to be a girl thing, and it's like that doesn't really matter because to this day still, like, maybe Mystic wishes to go by she her, like, that's not the problem. Again, it is entirely the race faking and then pretending to
not
tweet
speak
in
English,
broken English, and then when the gig was up,
they continuing to do the broken English.
And it's like, if you had wanted to just rebrand and like kind of present in a different way as you were known for in the past, I don't think anyone would have an issue. Granted, I think people are getting kind of fed up with like leakers as of late. Literally before like today, another one just got like not outed, but like accidentally said their source to like their main source at Nintendo to like Jason Schreier.
Oh, that's
and now
bad.
They're probably cooked and people are kind of just like applauding it. But there were quite a few people, especially Japanese people, who got harassment from it afterwards of like commenting on this, of just being like, hey, this is really fucked up that you pretended to be Japanese.
Yes.
Knowing Mystic for as long as I have, or I guess knowing of, and this sounds like kind of like cynical, I would not be surprised if in some manner honing in on the like Orientalism. Maybe I'm using that word wrong, but like you are specifically targeting people in the West who fetishize Japanese women, and you are like basically trying to make an army of simps, because as soon as this dropped, it immediately everyone's like, I don't know, I don't think this is Mystic. Who's Mystic? This, no way. We love you, Midori. And it's like, you should be kind of mad that I mean, you were lied to for a while, but specifically they did it in a really racist way. And since then they have deactivated their account, but knowing them, they'll be back.
They'll be back.
They'll be back.
They'll be
For
back.
sure.
And this isn't the only case of someone pretending to be Japanese for clout this week in the game sphere.
Shocking.
This time it was some Yamamoto guy whose real name is like George or whatever, because he's like a fake professor or something. I don't know, maybe he's a real professor, who fucking knows. But he basically pretended to be a Japanese guy who studied in Japan the Sengoku period so he could be racist about Assassin's Creed. And then if you literally just go back and see who he interacted with, he literally talks about himself as a white man. I think that's what got Mystic dinged too, right? Is that for some reason they were using an account that could be traced back to being Mystic Distance.
Yes.
Yeah. And specifically, there was some kind of like translation site where they specifically used the old like on record name just right there. It's like, hi, I'm Midori here. I'm using this name for this like translation. And it's like, okay, well, we know that connects it. You just said it.
Yep. What I also think is super funny is that, and I'm going to clarify that this is not true, by the way. Midori is what leakers think the code name for Persona 6 is. So when I heard that, I was like, oh, okay, cool, whatever.
At the end, it's always about clout.
Yeah, it's just
That's all I care about.
A bunch of people gossiping over things. Like, I personally do not like covering leaks, and when it would come to me to cover them, I wouldn't. I like as someone that does like engage in like translating stuff for various communities, or I used to for like Yakuza, for example. I would translate like Famitsu interviews, character biographies for Resident Evil. I would buy those special Famitsu books, the Perfect Guides, and translate the developer interviews in them and everything. For example, there was one with Resident Evil 0 where they actually talked about Billy's tattoo and how complicated it was, actually making it look decent on a GameCube and not say like, you know, money love instead of mother love and things like that, or how big hitboxes are with certain weapons. I like sharing that information with people because I'm a freak and I'm like, I like the thing I like too. But I do agree that people are getting more and more tired of leakers because more and more of these leaks are just not true.
Yeah.
They're broad strokes of, I have a feeling a big game is going to be announced at a Nintendo Direct, which could be anything.
And I think we're having a bit of a problem with like combating this, because anyone who actually knows the truth, it's not like they can say something. It's not like they can like be like, oh, that's not true, this person's an idiot, because they're under NDA. And so they're kind of just able to continue doing this, get a bunch of like clout and hype built up around these, and then just be like, oh, I guess they shifted gears when it turns out not to be true.
You know what?
Easiest grift in the world.
Yeah.
It's a really weird trajectory too, because if you become known for, like, just think about the evolution, right? If you become known for leaks and what you're actually saying isn't true, or you're using really old information that is more widely available than you think, but most people don't know about it, or what have you, which is how they figured out that part of what they figured out with Midori was that they were using like an old like leak, like an old like security breach leak or an old data leak or something like that, to make those like supposed statements on Twitter or whatever. If you do all that and then your source of information runs out because you don't actually have like a real source, right? Because a lot of these leakers, it turns out that they don't have real sources. They just have like that old information. What exactly do you expect people to do when you stop being accurate? Like, are people really that dumb to say, oh, they were right about this one time, so even if they're wrong 50 other times in the future, I'm still going to follow them. I'm still going to listen to what they're saying. I'm still going to like base my expectations around the supposed leaks that they're making.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't make sense to me. You know, I would imagine most people would become disillusioned to that or realize that you're a fraud and then stop paying attention to you. Which I guess, ironically, being found out as someone who is not an actual leaker is that final flash in the pan. It's like that final flash in the pan of popularity, and then you lose it entirely. So I really don't understand why these people do what they do if their goal is to clout chase. Because ultimately, the clout isn't there. The clout does not last. You're riding a high for 15 minutes of fame, and then you have nothing to show for it.
Well, they don't have foresight.
Yeah.
Like, there's not a plan. It's all like very like, what can I like? Gimme. And it's like,
And it's also like you can't get anything from this. Like, you're not an influencer. You're not gonna get acknowledgement from like the brand, and they're not gonna let you into events and shit because you're a leaker. In fact, they're gonna make sure that you are kept from things.
And in this particular instance, I mean, like Alex from RPG site already tweeted out, so I'm just gonna like say it. This was a person who had specifically tried to like, I don't want to use the word like break in to Sega, but definitely tried to like hack into their Wi-Fi from outside the office and was like banned from showing up. Like, this was someone who basically got blacklisted from anything Sega related, and like leaking was all they had left, which is a strange phrase to say out loud.
Leaking was all they had
Leaking
left.
is all you got left. If leaking is all your life has become, you need to see a doctor.
Yes.
That's all I'm saying.
Yes. That's not right. Just
That's
like
not,
a white
no.
woman pretending to be Korean to try to get a publisher.
Jesus Christ. What was this white woman's alias?
Kimchi.
How
Oh,
did
come
nobody
on.
figure this one out?
So to be fair, there is actually a famous Korean poet named Kim Chi-ha.
Okay.
So that, like, I understand, because I was like, this can't be real. But no, this is in fact a name that is accredited to several authors. Kimchi.
Outstanding.
But the thing was that when they were pressed about their identity, then they got really cagey about it. They were basically, I think, in like a Discord group full of like other like authors of color, and people were sort of like being a bit like, some of this stuff doesn't add up. And then went back and dug through their Twitter where they talked about being Italian.
Oh, God.
Oh, good.
And that a lot of their queries weren't getting attention because they were like, they assumed it was because they were featuring all white casts in their mood boards. But I'm just going to tell you something. If your writing's not interesting and your premise isn't interesting, it's not going to get traction. Doesn't matter. It doesn't matter because book publishing is still a majority like white authors and everything, right? Like, you're not going to get anything by pretending to be a person of color anywhere.
Also, what is your plan? What is your plan if you blow up?
And you can't go to book readings?
You can't go to readings. You can't do interviews. You can't do like guest appearances anywhere.
Skin
like, what are you gonna
pigment
do?
surgery.
I
That
get
happened in Tropical Thunder.
what. Oh no! What's that guy? Ollie, whatever his name is. Ollie London.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Who's Ollie London?
He's a white guy who wanted to basically look like Jungkook from BTS and got facial surgery, and now he's an
Oh my
alt-right
God.
grifter because people made fun of him for wanting to be a different race.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
I think the world is a fascinating place.
Yeah, you know.
Every once in a while, we glimpse over the edge and see the horrible, like, abyss of hell beneath us, but we still truck along.
But hey, you know what? Real quick, just
Mhm.
gotta say thank you, nosy people, for being nosy people and for doing a little bit of digging and revealing to the masses these fraudulent individuals. Gotta say, none of this we wouldn't have these talking points if it weren't for somebody who was like in that Discord going, something ain't right here.
Now, apparently, like I'm hearing from some people like murmuring that the reason this like whole like investigation happened
Yes.
was like for like kind of sus reasons.
Yeah, it
But
was.
it was. But the thing is, no one's like, oh, it's those are the heroes who saved us. It's like no one gives a fuck about the people who like found this information.
Yeah.
And I genuinely don't care. I don't even remember their names. So
Right.
I don't like know what's going on with them or with all this. But like, I'm just glad this happened because it's just kind of like, it was just weird. Just don't do that.
Yeah, it's wrong.
The thing is, when R.F. Kuang like wrote her book, people were like, that would never happen. As
What an interesting fiction.
Yeah, as someone who is part of the VTuber community, this happens all the time.
I imagine it would be most of them.
It is most of them. It is a lot of them.
Not to take a pot shot at VTubers. I know one's in the room with us right now.
Where?
But like,
Who? Who is the VTuber?
It's GC.
Fuck.
I have a confession.
Yeah?
I've been posing as a Guatemalan woman for the last 50 years.
Oh.
No, that was something that when I joined the VTubing community, there were like other East Asian VTubers, not just Japanese, but Korean and Chinese as well, that were sort of talking about culture being an accessory and an aesthetic, and that the person behind it being white it's like you are literally appropriating like a name and a look that is associated with like a certain race of people.
Yep.
Mystic had to roll and be like, time to colonize the leaker space.
Yeah, literally. And obviously, like, there are some VTubers that are East Asian that are not bothered by this or whatever. I, in fact, was like one of them that was like, if you're pretending, if you're in fact a white woman and you go by like, sorry, Midori Sakura, I will in fact judge you. That's a little fucking weird.
It is very weird. It's also worth pointing out that there's probably a lot of people on the internet that do this.
Oh yes, yeah.
I got news for everybody. There's probably a lot of people out there who use a Japanese name on Twitter and they've got an anime profile picture, and you know who I'm talking about. You know who these people are.
Yeah.
K-On profile pictures.
Oh my god. Well, because like there have definitely been times where I've like met people and I'm like, oh, are you like half Japanese as well? And they're like, no, I'm not. And I'm like, oh, okay, I see. Oh, all right. And it can be a little, just as like a personal anecdote here or whatever. It can be like a little disheartening because, basically most of my life I didn't really meet any other mixed race Japanese people, and even now I only know very few. Most of them I know online, because it's like an international community, but it's so rare to meet other mixed race Japanese people or other people that are part of the diaspora. So you get really excited when you do, and then when you find out that this person is in fact not, you're like, man, okay. But this has happened through like my entire life. So
Yeah,
it's very, yeah.
It's a fucking letdown.
Yeah. But R.F. Kuang was, I don't know, she's the Hideo Kojima of novelists, I guess. Seeing into the future or whatever.
If I find out someone I know isn't actually named Raul and isn't from like Puerto Rico, I'm gonna pop him in the mouth. I'm just saying.
GC chooses violence. I choose a deep, deep disappointment that lingers only with me.
See, I do like petty bitchiness where I stay in the rafters and I'm like, I will wait for your downfall because you irritate me.
I love that about you, Cullen. I actually really do love that about you. But speaking of the depths of hell and staring into the abyss, we're all playing Dragon Age.
Oh yeah, we are.
I mean, I actually haven't played in a couple
but you did start.
a week. I did start, and I have not found a time to pick it back up.
So
that's okay.
Yeah. So Cullen is playing Dragon Age 2, my favorite Dragon Age. And GC is currently playing Origins, and I'm watching a friend play Inquisition. I'm going to start an Origins playthrough on stream, and I'm letting my community decide my origin, and it looks like Dwarven Commoner is winning.
Ooh, Dwarven Commoner is not too bad, honestly. Dwarven Commoner is a decent origin. It's more interesting than the Noble Dwarf, tell you what.
Oh, really?
Well, the dwarf noble's interesting because like the politics and stuff, but I feel like I get enough of that from going to Orzammar in Origins just in the normal playthrough. So like I don't really need the extra political intrigue. Although I have been told that people enjoy the dwarf noble storyline because it does add more to the Orzammar story.
Yeah, because like you're tied up with all that Bronca shit, right?
I think so.
And the
yeah.
expedition, yeah. That's okay. So for anyone that doesn't know, I mean, I've talked about this in the podcast before, but Dragon Age Origins was the first game I ever platinumed. I 100% completed Dragon Age Origins. I was not normal about Dragon Age. I loved Dragon Age, and then Inquisition came out, and I no longer like Dragon Age. So I have strong.
I think
feelings.
Origins was also the first game I platinumed, or one of the first games that I platinumed.
It's just so replayable and it's so fun.
Yeah, and it's like I think I did it in prep for Dragon Age 2 because I wanted as many bonuses as I could get, and I remember believing at the time that you would get more stuff for doing like achievements in DA1 for DA2.
Well, theoretically that is true because if you import your save, some of those choices do actually carry over.
Yeah, a good amount of them do. I actually think there are some. I don't remember. There might be some. No. Because you import it to the keep, and then the keep downloads it from DA2. Yeah. Never mind.
Cullen, how are you liking Dragon Age 2 with a little bit you've played?
I like how you press the buttons and the attacks happen, and it feels just janky enough to be soulful and just good enough to enjoy. Also, this is very strange, and I can't I don't know how to articulate this the best, but there's something about the dialogue in Dragon Age that I find very efficient.
Yes.
There's not a lot of time wasted that I feel like Mass Effect is just full of. Like, I feel like Mass Effect, when I tried to revisit it, there's so many conversations that didn't really build character and didn't really build on the world in interesting ways and just kind of wasted time. Whereas like I'm playing Dragon Age 2 right now, and I'm like, this is really engaging, and I'm like, I like hearing these characters talk, and they're very well voice acted, and there's like full voice acting in this like 2007
No,
game. I don't know when this game came
2010,
out.
I think.
It's still like a lot of voice acting. And I quite enjoy the setting being so like restrictive and oppressive in a lot of ways, how you're just stuck in this like town and everything like surrounding it. I think that's very interesting. I don't need massive worlds to explore in every RPG I play, and I know that was like a big criticism this game got, that it's like, oh, it's in one city and that's boring. And I'm like, well, I don't need like a big world. Give me one area and have it be fully fleshed out. And so far it is, and I'm really enjoying it. I just haven't had time to play too much, unfortunately.
Well. Soon.
I like Hawk.
Hawk is the best. He looks like guys I dated in high school.
That makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm always just like, oof, Hawk. But, yeah, Hawk is just... Have you seen the CGI trailer for Dragon Age 2?
I have not.
Oh,
no.
I'll send it to you. I really like
Just take
it.
a look. Yeah.
Yeah, it's cool. You have a mage that fights with like a pole arm. That's kind of like a first, you know? Because he's like canonically like a mage.
Ooh.
He's really cool.
Hawk?
Yeah, Hawk's a mage. He's a buff mage.
I just gave him a big sword.
You can thank BioWare's very strong stable of writers for the dialogue in Dragon Age 2.
Yes.
Because I want to say Dragon Age Origins, Dragon Age 2, like that era of like BioWare writers was really strong. And they had basically they had like a lead writer that would work on the characters, but they had writers working on quests. They had writers working on like the general premises. They had them working on books. Like there is like an incredible amount of writing efforts put into Dragon Age Origins and Dragon Age 2. And I would even go ahead and lump Inquisition in there as well.
The transmedia stuff for Inquisition I don't think is as strong. Because I remember when that movie about Cassandra came out, and then the thing with Felicia Day. No smack on Felicia Day. It's just, it felt like a very like, the nerds love her, put her in the game, and everyone did not like that.
I mean, that's her career. No offense, Felicia Day.
Well,
but like that is kind of your career.
She probably knows.
Yeah.
She probably knows
Oh, yeah,
that's how
no.
she, makes her money.
Yeah.
She's listening right now and like wiping her tears with her like quadrillions of dollars.
She has like a YouTube show and stuff, I think. But it felt like the first step into putting notable people and communities in video games.
Yeah.
And then like Mass Effect 3 had like a journalist or something in there, right?
Did it?
Yeah. Mass Effect 3 had
Anderson Cooper.
Oh no.
I don't think it's Anderson Cooper.
I forget who it is, but there is a character who is basically a stand-in for a certain person. I forget who it is. It's like a cameo, like a guest cameo thing, but I can't remember. But yeah, I feel like Dragon Age is really. I'm playing through Origins now, and I'm having a really good time. Like a really good time. I forgot how well written Origins is.
It's so good.
One of the things
making me
I
wanna play
love.
it.
Yeah, of course. One of the I want you to keep playing it, you know? One of the things that I really love about Dragon Age Origin specifically, I don't know if 2's not as good about this because they opt out of so Dragon Age Origins has the classic CRPG dialogue trees where a character says something to you and then you get like 4 to 6 responses that you can say back at them and they're full sentences. Dragon Age 2 and Dragon Age Inquisition sort of incorporate the Mass Effect conversation wheel.
Yeah, they're more gross approximations.
Which are just, approximations of what you can actually say. And here's why that sucks. In Dragon Age Origins, you don't have to pick dialogue options, but you still learn things from the dialogue options you don't pick. So the way that they're worded still describe. So like, let's say, for instance, in the prologue, I was a human noble in my prologue. When you go to talk to one of your handlers, he's like, hey, your dog's in the larder again. And the lady that runs the kitchen is really upset with you about it. And then you get 6 dialogue responses and you don't have to pick. You can't pick all of these dialogue responses, but each one fleshes out the characters in the conversation. So each one will say something about the lady running the kitchen. The other one will say something about the character you're talking to. The other one will say something about the dog character, which becomes a companion. Like, even though I didn't pick those options, I still learn things from those options and it still fleshes out the world and builds out the world. And Dragon Age Origins continues, it follows through with that so far throughout the entire game where I'm just constantly learning things like that. And then on top of that, there's like a really underlying current where your main character might actually be kind of sort of not, like he's kind of like, he's not a jerk, but he like I'm talking to the elves and the elves are telling me a story about how the humans basically subjugated the elves, right? And none of the responses you have to the elf that's telling you this are like, no, dude, I totally agree with you. Like this is totally what happened and you're super right. A lot of it is you deflecting or dismissing it or outright disagreeing or playing dumb. And the elf kind of calls you out on it, but all the dialogue options sort of infer that your character doesn't actually know that much about the history between the humans and the elves.
Unless if you're an elf.
That's really cool. Unless you're an elf.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really cool. Like it actually sort of, it makes you can make inferences about your main character and what they know based on those dialogue options as well. And that's something really cool. And you don't really see that in a lot of RPGs. You don't really see that in a lot of there's even CRPGs where you don't see a lot of that. Like modern CRPGs nowadays, each dialogue response is just a random question about lore, and then you get thrown lore at your face, as opposed to using those dialogue options to build out the world.
That's exactly what I was thinking of, because there's so many CRPGs where you are literally a blank slate, and that's there's value in that. But I do like it when you use these complicated dialogue trees to actually build out a predefined character in some way. It's neat.
Yeah,
I like playing characters that have a pre-established background, but that's because I don't really care about self-inserts. Inquisition, you more or less get a self-insert.
Yeah, there's some background to your Inquisition character, but it's mostly you sort of fill out the character. I remember being pretty satisfied with Inquisition, just being a little disappointed with like the usual stuff. I think one of the biggest mistakes they ever did with Dragon Age was try to make it more like Mass Effect. I think that was the biggest mistake they ever made, because it didn't need to be like Mass Effect. It could have continued to be more like Origins, or I guess like as a consolation, it could have been like Dragon Age 2.
Mm-hmm.
But Mass Effect was at the time, Mass Effect was the vastly more popular series.
Mm-hmm.
With more, like, it had a bigger like fan base behind it, and they decided for Dragon Age that they would sort of do things like Mass Effect, like the conversation wheel and some of the combat and how you do companions and some of the quest design and like little things like that. They sort of like started incorporating more Mass Effect ideas into Dragon Age, and I think that's when the series started straying. And then it really started to stray when they started to do the pop culture stuff, when they wanted Dragon Age to be like pop culture fantasy.
Yeah.
I think that was like a huge misstep.
Like with the new one, or you mean with Inquisition?
And even Dragon Age 2 a little bit is
with the Felicia Day.
Yeah.
That's kind of like it's not Felicia's Day. Really get rid of that part. GC, I'm tripping over our words here.
Oh no, I'm not doing that. This is my ball court
now.
now.
Shit. Fucking goddamn it.
I'm the podcast boy this week.
It's not Felicia Day's fault. It's more or less a symptom of marketing and homogenizing the setting and adding these things to make it more appealing to a general audience.
Which, in my opinion, ironically makes it less appealing to a general audience.
But I will say this, I don't know what the development of those games were like, because I've never looked into them. I only know that one of the authors basically got lambasted for saying that there should be a story mode, and she was right. There should just be a story mode for those games, because so much of those games is just dialogue, other than like the tactical combat.
Yep.
I don't know. I think the story mode was good. She also wrote Alistair, and I love my favorite. Like he's not God's greatest white boy. He is like,
That's me.
Yeah, that is you. He is my chosen white boy who loves cheese. I loved Alistair. I was kind of bummed I couldn't romance him, but that was also a thing of, he's just not for me, I guess. And then I went and fucking ran off with Zevran and Morrigan. But yeah, I sort of miss the writing in those first two Dragon Age games, because even as I'm playing 2, and 2 is still like, there are characters that are really challenging in terms of like their own ideologies, systems of belief, how they approach the world. And I like that friction from those characters, but I just don't like the writing of the companions. They're not as strong, and people are going to like kick down my door and kill me for this one. But I just don't quite care for the companions, and I don't quite care for the way they've written Hawke, because even though Hawke is a predefined character, there's so much that you can do with Hawke that really makes him feel like your own, if you know what I mean.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Like, for example, there's a thing that happens with a character that Cullen hasn't met yet, and all these characters hate this specific character, but my Hawke didn't hate this character because of a shared life experience. So when Hawke showed up and was like, man, fuck that guy, I was like, okay, I guess. But that was like one of my like, I would say major gripes with it, is that was when I, as a player, was beginning to see that player choice in those games was not as significant as it was made out to be, and the illusion of player choice was beginning to like unravel.
Yeah.
But GC, you've played Mass Effect, and you said that was already basically happening in Mass Effect 3.
Yeah. Mass Effect goes through a very similar problem where Mass Effect 1 creates this big promise that all of your decisions are going to have like long-reaching consequences. And so like every decision in Mass Effect 1 is pretty major. And they're not even like, some of them aren't even like conclusions to arcs. Some of them are just decisions that you make in the middle of an arc that will have like a long-lasting impact, sometimes in the same, like in the game itself, like in the scope of just Mass Effect 1. And then Mass Effect 2 is really, I really like Mass Effect 2. But it's sort of like, it sort of becomes really obsessed with player decisions and player impact and consequences and stuff like that. And it works in Mass Effect 2, but by the time you get to Mass Effect 3, it's all these big promises of like delivering on every major decision you've ever made in your entire like gameplay experience with Mass Effect. And ultimately it amounts to it, and people will probably sort of tell me that I'm reducing this or being reductive or whatever, but like it really does amount to pick a color you like, and the ending is ostensibly the same, serviceably the same, and none of the decisions that you've made actually make an impact on what happens. You just need to have made enough, like you just need to have made those decisions to get conclusions, but it doesn't feed into the promise of like, here's how your decisions are going to impact your ending. And when you think about it, really, when you think about it, like it's impossible, right? There's so many decisions that you can make and so many different combinations that making an ending that's actually satisfying based on those decisions for everybody is impossible. So you have to sort of narrow everything down. But the way they narrowed everything down, the way they became obsessed with it, sort of, it's almost counterproductive. Like if anything, they should have just like not focused so much or made us focus so much on our decisions and like on the supposed impact of those decisions.
You know what you just described, GC? The version of Baldur's Gate 3 that I played for review.
Oh.
There were basically only 2 endings.
Yeah. And now there's like
so many endings, so many different character endings. Character storylines are complete. When I played it, that was like it was basically, are you good or are you evil? And that's it. Game end. Karlach disappeared.
That's cool.
I really got to play Baldur's Gate 3.
You're going to have a very different experience. I'm going to recommend that you download some mods that restore dialogue that was like for some reason removed from the game. Like innocuous dialogue that doesn't matter, but it's like, why did that happen? Who knows? We'll never know. But I've heard it's a much better experience. I actually recently watched my friend Lori, because I go to her house a lot now to like hang out with her and her cat. She's playing Dragon Age Inquisition for me. Hi, Lori. I saw her beat Baldur's Gate 3, and I was like, wow, that's like a really full experience, actually. Like, damn, I wish that I had gotten to experience that for my review, or my review would have been pretty different. So I'm glad that people are able to get the better experience now, because I'm not always a hater, you know?
I was going to say, I've heard they've actually taken out a lot. So you're saying they've actually added in a good amount too?
So they've taken out some dialogue that pertained to specific characters, which was kind of upsetting to the queer community. No one knows why they did it. I'm sure Larian will never say why they did it, and I don't...
On Pride Month.
No, it was a while ago.
No, I mean, they did something recently. Gortash or whatever. Apparently they took out
that was a while ago.
I only heard about it this month.
So did they remove more? Jesus Christ.
I think they might have.
Oh my god, okay. Well, the thing is, I've heard people call this game the Ship of Theseus because they keep taking out and putting in parts, which I think is a really apt way to describe it. Like, for example, when I beat the game, Karlach didn't have a proper ending. So at the end, Jaheira was just like, what happened to Karlach? And then the game ended. Asterion just ran off. And Gale told me that he was going to go on to fuck around and find out for a second time. And that was my game. My other companions didn't have endings. Now, when you beat the game, you have an after camp scene. And if you play the Dark Urge, there are several different endings you can get, not just your basic, are you good or are you evil ending. And you can also see the conclusion to certain character storylines and talk to them about what they want to do, and have a little party at the end, which I think is really sweet. It's just a more full experience. It's a lot more stable. You're not falling through the earth because you were in combat and someone knocked you down and now you're infinitely plummeting into nothingness. Again. That happened to me twice. Cool, I love the Temple of Shire. I was gonna talk about Veilguard with you guys, but the trailer came out where they showed gameplay and it looked a lot more like Mass Effect 2 than Dragon Age. I'm cautiously optimistic, but also being realistic about what this could be. And I actually can't say more than that.
That's coming out this year, right?
Apparently, they have not confirmed anything.
Wait, I thought they said 2024.
Yeah, but that could like they didn't give like a date.
I guess it could push up, but that seems like probably holiday.
Yeah, like it's for fiscal year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, no, I think it'll probably drop before maybe November, December.
Yeah.
Because then you got everyone in a frenzy buying shit. So
yeah, I just don't want to say anything because like I went to the presentation, and people might think that what I'm saying is like actually factually correct, and I'm like, I really don't know. I just know that it should be coming out this year, because usually like sometimes when you go to presentations, maybe you get information. Maybe you get information. Speaking of information, Tales of the Shire is really fun, GC. I think you'll like it.
Ooh, yeah.
What game's that?
I've been watching it not very closely, but I've been watching it like I watched the trailer for it during the direct.
We can talk about the direct after this. So Tales of the Shire is a farming life sim where you are a hobbit in the Shire.
Oh, that game that looks bad. Yeah.
Oh god. Well, the core mechanic is around making food for people and like having big dinners and like coming together as a community and cooking together, which is a really sweet concept. You know what it reminded me of, GC? Do you remember that essay a Korean American, I think she was like an author or a journalist, made about after her mother passed, she started cooking a lot more because it kept her in touch with her cultural roots and like kept her close to her community and the memory of her mother.
I vaguely remember that.
So I don't know if this was their intention, but like food is like a really strong thing for like us diaspora folks. Like
Yes.
I stay in touch with my cultural roots through food a lot of the time. Like the food my mom made for me growing up has a really special place in my heart. So when a game is like our whole thing is about community and sharing meals and cooking for each other, I'm just like, oh, my little diasporic heart. Oh, I love it. So I'm kind of interested to see what they're going to do with it. The game itself is really cute. They told me that you can't fish anywhere you want because you actually have to make friends with people because there's like a grumpy old fart that's like, this is my pond, get out of here. So you need to be his friend before you can fish.
I love that.
So I think that's fun.
I mostly mean like literally like look. I don't like the looks of the game.
Okay, yeah.
But it seems cute, and I'm glad they're making a Lord of the Rings game that's not just go kill people. It's Assassin's Creed Dark Souls.
Nothing will be better than the Third Age, which was just Final Fantasy X.
I really want to play that one.
Have you never played the Third Age?
No, but I watched you play it for like 10 minutes a good while ago. And I was really interested in it because it does just look like FF10 but Lord of the Rings, and I like Lord of the Rings. So
you have to tell me about your favorite Lord of the Rings fact later, GC, and how you feel about Celebrimbor.
Celebrimbor. I gotta finish Shadow of War as well.
Okay.
Play
Maybe
Shadow
that's
of
something we
Mordor
go
also.
through together after we finish Dragon Age.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
Speaking of that, I have now downloaded Dragon Age Origins on my Xbox.
Hell yes, that's honestly the best place to play it. That's where I played Origins.
We are, in fact, back in there.
Yeah, we are in an age, everyone, an age of dragons.
Yeah. Can you fuck a dragon in this game?
No?
Shame.
Anyways, about the Nintendo Direct, that was kind of great, right? Did people have good fun with that? I was asleep.
That's like one of the best directs they've ever made.
I thought it was
I've got
okay.
so many games I'm gonna buy now. The last half of this year is looking like it's going crazy.
So why don't you give us a brief rundown of what they showed at the Nintendo Direct?
Sure. I don't have a list pulled up, so I'm not fond of this. I'm definitely going to edit you, all your fuck ups into like a song later to play on the outro.
Are you serious?
Yeah, and to spite you for putting me on the spot.
I'm
How
so
dare
sorry.
you? I don't know. It's whatever. It's Cullen fumbling yet again, huh? But no. So there's a couple key things. I think mostly I was kind of just blown away with Square's output from this direct.
Mm-hmm.
They like at the beginning of the year up until now, they kind of just were like, hey guys, we got 2 games out this year. Final Fantasy 7 Rebirth and Dawn Trail. And it's like, oh, I'm a bit worried about you guys. What's going on? And then now they're like, no, so we have a Fantasian port. We have, God, what are some of them? Romancing Saga 2 is getting a full-blown remake.
Mm-hmm.
Oh wait, not at the direct. They also have Visions of Mana, which looks super good.
That game was really fun to play.
I am so excited for Visions of Mana. That's gonna be my big summer game. I'm so excited.
It's a baby game for babies, but like not derogatory, if that makes sense.
I'm baby. Oh my god. But they also finally unveiled, like officially, the Dragon Quest III remake, and I think it looks incredible.
I think it's also changed a lot since the last time we saw it.
It sure has.
Mm-hmm.
One of those things where I'm like, hey, why'd you show this so early?
Yeah.
I played it.
I hate you.
I want to be you.
I want to kill you.
What is it? The me when I fucking get you?
Yeah, me when I fucking get you and then I beat you to death with a hammer. Hey Jake, that's some good art you can draw for the podcast.
Just everyone just kicking the shit out of me.
Yeah. With and like draw GC and I as like Dragon Quest like classes.
Yeah.
You can decide which. I won't be picky.
Yeah.
Draw all of us as Dragon Quest classes, but we're still like beating up Kazuma.
What class would I be?
Jake will decide.
Okay.
It's more interesting that way. But Kazuma, please tell us, your adoring public, how was it to play that game that we are both so excited to play and that you don't care for?
Oh no, so actually it was really fun. It was really, really beautiful actually. I don't like HD 2D a lot because sometimes it just kind of looks like muddy and like there's too much bloom and
I feel like that was a problem with early HD 2D.
It's not that problem anymore. I didn't like it in Octopath. That actually turned me off to Octopath along with some weird storyline.
Did you play Octopath 2?
I played Octopath 1, not 2.
You gotta play 2.
I'll give it more time. I bounced off of Octopath 1 really hard.
No, don't even bother with 1. Just play 2.
Okay. Because there was that storyline with the girl that like I forgot what her name. She's the dancer.
Oh, yeah, Throne. I like her. She's pretty.
Wait, no,
is Throne in 2? Am I mixing everything up?
Yeah, I think you're mixing it up because in the first one, she was like, I ran away to be in a brothel to get revenge for the man who killed my father.
Yeah,
it's weird. It's very weird. And there's like there's a lot of gross things in that story.
Throne is the thief girl in Octopath 2, and she is my wife, and I love her.
I'm glad you have so many wives.
I got that white boy Riz.
Yeah.
That silly white boy Riz.
Yeah.
Anyway, Dragon Quest.
Yeah, it's really gorgeous. The cities are beautiful. I was warned that the game would be kind of hard because we were playing the beginning. I did get my ass beat by a couple of slimes.
Let's go.
Nice.
But overall, like, it seems like a really great place for people to start. So for my Dragon Quest background, I've only ever played like the Monsters games on Game Boy.
Ooh. Okay.
Like the really old ones. You know what I'm talking about, GC?
Yeah.
Yeah, those are the ones that I played. And I was like, I have no idea what's going on. This dialogue's weird and obtuse. I'm a child. So I say that as I was still like going home and playing Baldur's Gate. I don't know what the fuck was wrong with me. I was just like, I don't understand.
We should make you play a Dragon Quest game for homework.
Well, now I can play them without pause because Sugiyama's dead.
Yeah, Rip Bozo.
Rip Bozo.
I remember somebody on Blue Sky was like, yeah, I have conflicted feelings about the series because of Sugiyama. And I was like, don't. He's fucking dead. He's not doing any actual harm anymore. Go enjoy Dragon Quest.
And like most of the series is piratable. Just fucking go enjoy it.
Yeah. Go have a Dragon Quest. You know? Overall, it seems really fun. Apparently, there was a switch from combat from third to first person.
Yeah.
I don't know how I feel about that because I didn't play the original DQ3.
Well, okay, so the third person was what they revealed the remake as. Dragon Quest 3 has always been first person.
Oh.
Yeah.
And I, as someone who likes first person dungeon crawlers, I've never had an issue with Dragon Quest games being first person.
Yeah, I think it's great. I love it.
but I know people were kind of like teased with that whole like Golden Sun camera style.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a bummer that it's not in there, but also like I'm not gonna be too torn up about it. I think this looks great.
Yeah. Also, like it still looks like you can still see the characters on screen.
Mm-hmm.
So like the party members are still on screen, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's just
At the beginning, I think.
It's just behind the shoulder.
I don't remember. I think it's you see them at the beginning and then it's first person and you just see their attacks.
Oh, okay. Well, that is somewhat of a letdown for me, but like it's not a huge deal. Like that's not what I play Dragon Quest for. It would have been cool to see Dragon Quest do that style of combat just in terms of presentation. But we're not missing out on anything, and honestly, you're still getting some really nice animations for enemies. You're still you're probably going to get some really cool particle effects. I know that seems like it doesn't amount to much, but when you're playing an RPG for tens of hours, it's really important that what you're looking at stays fresh and interesting. And I think ultimately not seeing your characters is better for that, because your move list and the possible animations you can see from your characters is a lot more limited than the animations you will see enemies perform. So I think one of those would get more mundane quicker, and the one that would do that is your party member actions. So it kind of makes sense that they opted to not show party members doing things, because you would probably see them do the same thing a lot. Cut to SMT3 Nocturne, where you can watch Demi Fiend wet slap an enemy for 100 hours.
That sounds miserable. Wait, is that in the new? No, I played old Nocturne.
In Nocturne, since the game heavily discourages you playing any other build besides strength, a lot of times people's playthroughs, Demi Fiend is just doing regular attacks and just slapping enemies in the face.
Or worse, he's doing like, charge and then a physical attack that mostly does like crits. So he's like getting both like hands up ready to do like one punch, and it's just like it is a lot of the same thing over and over and over again, and you're kind of like, does Nocturne have like speed up options for the remaster? I forget.
I don't know. I don't remember turning them on.
Because I know that like 5 is great with that, where you can like hit the A button again and just skip the whole animation to keep battles like fast. And to your point, that's what I am excited about for this, is that like for the time, Dragon Quest 3 was a pretty big game, and I think expanding on the scale of it means we're going to get a decent sized RPG, and you are going to be fighting a lot of battles in this game. Kazuma, do you know if battles were still random encounters in this one?
I have no idea. I walked into a forest, saw a slime, and put up my fists.
No, but like, so you saw a slime on the field, or did you like trigger a random battle?
I triggered a random battle.
Okay, so random battles are still in.
Okay.
Which means, yeah, you're going to be fighting a lot of enemies in this game.
Yeah, one thing that they mentioned, they did like an extended like gameplay thing, and one of the things that was mentioned, supposedly what we're getting, there's going to be extra content here and there. So I'm very excited to see what they add, because apparently they added to the Dragon Quest 3 experience. For those of you that don't know, Dragon Quest 3 is like the beginning of the classic vignettes, or the vignettes, however you want to pronounce it, of Dragon Quest, like the very episodic storytelling of Dragon Quest. And I'm really interested to see if they add more of those, or if they do a better job compartmentalizing the different like story beats of Dragon Quest 3.
Okay.
I imagine they will. It seems like this is ripe to expand on all the like the story bits, which are very sporadic originally.
Yeah.
I'm stoked. I love Dragon Quest 3. It's hard to not love Dragon Quest 3. It is one of the most iconic JRPGs ever made. It's very funny because it came out about I want to say a couple weeks after Final Fantasy 1, and just completely blew it away in terms of like scale and the jobs on offer and just the experience it was like offering. Like, I know I'm a bit of a Final Fantasy 1 hater, not exactly, but like I just always think it's funny how they were like, guys, we're the new hotness, we're Final Fantasy, and then Dragon Quest was like, sit back down.
Yeah, you ain't going nowhere.
You're not going nowhere for a while.
Dragon Quest 3 was my first Dragon Quest. I played it on the Game Boy Color, and it had animated enemy sprites. So this is going to be cool. One of the things that I'm really happy about is that the remake seems to be opting to emulate the SNES sprites. And if you've never played the SNES version of Dragon Quest 3, my God, those sprites are incredible and they look really good. So I'm really glad that HD 2D is just sort of taking that and modernizing it and I guess in a retro way because it's HD 2D, but yeah.
And it'll be nice to have a version of Dragon Quest 3 that does not have one kind of compromise one way or another. Because I'll be honest, I really like the Switch version of Dragon Quest 3, but the enemy sprites are just really boring. Like everything else about that game is great. Like the soundtrack's great. It has the official localization, which is great. And is one of the reasons why I struggle with the SNES version is because I just don't like the script.
It doesn't have the modern Dragon Quest localization in it where they do all the accents and stuff like that.
Which is what I love. I need my Dragon Quest to have that kind of flowery,
dialects.
like regional dialects and prose, and it's so. I'm so excited. I'm genuinely like so excited to play this game, and this is like November, I think, right?
Yep, November 14th.
Sheesh. GC, if we were to recommend, like, or not recommend, it would be by force Kazuma to play a Dragon Quest game. Which one would you like? Do you think we should do?
Could it be DQ3 HD 2D?
No, it'd be before this.
It would be Dragon Quest 8 or
maybe 7. You think he'd be a 7 freak?
No. It's too long.
Too long? Yeah, fair.
It would be 8 or 4 or 5. 8, 4 or 5.
I say 8. Yeah.
But
is there a gay person in 8?
The best job. What happened?
Is there a gay person in 8?
No.
Hang on. Okay.
Well, hold on.
Well,
there's a bisexual guy.
Oh, okay. Because I'm looking at the characters and I'm like, okay.
No, I don't even think you know the one I'm talking about.
Oh, okay.
You don't.
Well,
you don't.
Well, show me.
There's a man named Mori who I have headcanoned to be a bisexual man because he has an ability in his skill tree called Swing Both Ways.
Oh, I love that.
Wait until you see him. You might actually.
I was thinking about the other guy, the guy that has like
Angelo,
white hair.
No. He's from Dragon Quest game. I think he's like from 11 or something. I don't know.
Sylvando.
Yeah, him.
Oh, Sylvando's
That's from 11.
great.
You might like 11. I just hesitate to recommend 11 to you specifically because 11 is a pretty long one.
Yes. Okay. But I think you might like 8. 8 is a game that really just expects you to go like figure everything out yourself. Okay. And at one point they literally like open the world to you and they're like, you got to go find something. It's over there in that general direction across this ocean.
Just like in Final Fantasy 8.
Yeah,
kind of.
The game where I was lost for 4 months.
I can't beat 8 because every time I boot it up, I'm like, oh, wait, I don't know where I'm going. Fuck. All right. Closing this game again.
Yeah.
Love 8.
Dragon Quest 8 is really good in that it leaves you to sort of explore, but it's not a super big game. Like the world map is not actually that big. So you go find like little side quests to do if you don't find the main quest, and then eventually you will find the main quest because you'll run out of places to look. And it's like it's really cool. It's a moment where the world opens up to you, and then essentially the way it opens up to you is you have several land masses that you can visit, but there's a limit to how far you can get in each one, and eventually you will find the main path just exploring if you refuse to listen to any of the characters telling you exactly where to go.
Okay. Interesting.
It's also full of whimsy, and it's a very heartfelt story, and it's...
God, I'll hate it. Ugh.
Yeah.
No, I'll probably love it. I mean, I'm looking for things to enjoy. Contrary to popular belief, I do like enjoying things from time to time.
Hi, I'm popular belief.
Yeah. I don't think I'm that much of a hater around you, Cullen.
Looks
No.
at camera.
Oh my god.
But besides this, Romancing Saga 2 got a it looks like a decently budgeted remake, which is kind of impressive because the recent mainline entry that came out, which GC and I both really enjoyed, had a lot less money put into it than what they're doing with that remake.
I'm so glad
Apparently,
you agree.
It's hard not to. I have eyes. And apparently what they did was they had two teams working on these around the same time. And one of those teams was the people who worked on the Trials of Mana remake, who seemingly got more money because of like how successful that Trials of Mana remake was. And like it shows, like, because you do in a lot of ways see some like DNA from Trials of Mana. If anything, like I'm sure the only reason this is able to exist is that they're able to like repurpose a lot of like assets from a bunch of different Square games. I want to send you like a clip later, GC, and I want you to tell me if the attack animation they showed off in the Romancing Saga 2 trailer looked just like the Dragon Quest 11 Heroes attack animation.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
And I wouldn't, but like, here's the thing. I'm like, okay, Square, you should honestly be keeping like a bunch of like a vault of assets to just use in a bunch of your games. Like, I know you're like struggling as a company right now. You don't need to reinvent the wheel every time. Reuse some assets.
Yeah. Just do it. Do the Sega thing and reuse your assets. Like, it makes
Final
games
Fantasy
cheaper to
16
make.
might have burnt a lot of money, but you don't have to let it burn a lot of money because they made you a bunch of really nice assets. So just use them, copy and paste them in a bunch of games. Give us give some teams all of these assets and have them go crazy. And Fantasian looks pretty good.
I'm really excited to play that.
To finally play it now that it's coming out on a real system with voice acting now. Cullen wins for being patient.
Yay.
Not entirely. Cullen did buy a Apple TV to play it and then did not play it because he got too excited in having a streaming device that was actually competent. Apple TV is a great device, especially if your normal TV is like really slow as fuck. But what else did they announce at the Direct?
Well, I think something that's important. I just want to touch on this real quick. Fantasian, like, of note, it coming to other platforms also marks Sakaguchi working with Square Enix again.
Oh yeah,
which is kind of noteworthy.
So I used to do this bit on stream where I would walk out of frame, come back on frame with like a button up over my t-shirt, and I would I'm gonna do it for you guys, okay? Because it has with Sakaguchi.
Okay.
It is the Xbox presentation. And suddenly, Phil Spencer walks on stage and says, I'm doing the hand gestures here, okay? We at Xbox are happy to announce our acquisition of Square Enix. And we've brought someone very special to come and say hello with everyone. We all know how much you, the players, have enjoyed exploring the vast worlds created by Square Enix's Final Fantasy series. And today I have with me Hironobu Sakaguchi-san.
Yay! I love money. Buy them, yay!
Who will be taking the reins and making the next mainline Final Fantasy game in a return to the classic you all know and love. And then he gestures and Sakaguchi comes on and he's like, it's kind of weird, whatever. And yeah. So, yeah, that's, you saying that makes me think of that bit that I was doing because when we saw Phil Spencer at FanFest, we were like, oh, this does not bode well for Square Enix.
Uh-oh.
It's okay. Visions of Mana will save them.
I think the mid-budget titles will actually do a lot for them.
Oh, yeah. Like, it's weird that they were just recently saying, like, we're done with mid-title AAA to the future, baby. And now it's like, we were kidding. We have a bunch of AA games coming out.
I'm really excited for A Last Remnant 2. Please.
Oh, that's not happening.
Please, more gay people, please.
They've
Please.
locked everyone who worked on 16 in the mines. They're not letting them back out ever again.
He works on Saga.
No, not anymore.
He's
He
dead.
heard what I said. He was like, "Damn,
I
that's a
forget
good
his
idea,
name.
Cullen.
I
Time
think
to lock
it's-
people up."
I think it's Hiroshi Takai. I think that's his
Yeah.
name.
I think so. Yeah.
Like, please let him make The Last Remnant 2. Please.
Gotta let go.
I gotta
Call
make
it the
that
first
video.
remnant and tell us about the creation of the remnants.
That game was called Final Fantasy 16. You gotta let it go.
Actually, what's really funny is a friend of mine is playing through The Last Remnant right now, and I had this dawning realization that those games are literally the same.
Yeah.
Just want to let you both know. I googled The Last Remnant
Mm-hmm.
just now, and the first thing that pops up is a Reddit post, and the link reads, "The Last Remnant is straight up garbage that should be avoided." I clicked on it. The topic on Reddit says, "The Last Remnant is straight up garbage that should be avoided if you truly love JRPGs." And then it says, "Sorry, this post was deleted by the person who originally posted it."
Because, us Last Remnant freaks are out there. There are like 10 of us, but we really like the game.
Oh,
it's
we
really
love it.
good.
We love it.
I thought the game was very neat from what I played.
Mm-hmm.
I gotta make that
Happy
video.
Pride. Go play The Last Remnant.
Yeah, do it.
Oh yeah, this is our last Pride episode.
It is. It is our last
No more
Pride
Pride.
episode. Oh, yeah.
Next month, join us for the homophobic arc.
Jesus Christ. I'm just suddenly not there. I'm replaced by like a guy named like Stefan or something. He's like from Duisburg or something.
Hey, what's going on?
Dude.
It is me, Stefan. I like the Madden.
Yeah. I love to play FIFA.
Oh God! I think
Yeah.
if you play FIFA, you should fuck off.
What?
I thought
Don't listen to this. Don't listen to this podcast.
FIFA
You like
can
FIFA?
be fun. FIFA can
No,
be fun.
FIFA's
I don't
for
know,
fuckboys.
I don't know what the more recent FIFAs are like. Honestly, the PC ports of the FIFA games are pretty terrible. But like, I used to play FIFA. FIFA's fine.
Audience, I want you to respond. If you play FIFA, would you self-identify as a fuckboy or fuckboy adjacent? That's all I want to know. And if no one responds to this, then I'm right. But outside of that, we got some Edgeworth Investigations ports, which is great
Hell
because
yeah.
that second game never came to the West. I'm so fucking excited. One thing that I'm really stoked about is that new Zelda game, Zelda Echoes of Wisdom, where the whole gimmick is that you play as Zelda. And I think people found out that it is the like Link to the Past map, which is like, if we're going back to that map, I don't want to be playing as Link again. I'm getting kind of sick of like playing in this kind of style, especially if we're doing that like that map again. So to have it like switch it up where like everything you're interacting with becomes kind of like a puzzle, and especially how they were showing how there's a lot of different like ways to solve puzzles, and it's like, ooh, it's giving immersive sim. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm fucking stoked. I'm really excited to play that. I got so many games to play out of nowhere.
Happy Pride. They announced the game starring Zelda.
Yeah. I think some people were a little upset that it's not Zelda wielding a sword and doing like sword
Yeah.
combat. But in my opinion, I feel like that would honestly not be as interesting as Zelda having her own mechanic. Like
Exactly.
I love the idea of the magic, right? Because she's always associated with that.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll get to see her transform into Sheik and do some punches. I don't know.
Yeah, one thing that I am concerned about with that game. Hi, I'm GC. I'm a low-key Zelda fan. I've played almost every Zelda. I think I've played every Zelda except like Skyward Sword. What was I gonna say? Oh, I'm a little concerned about how combat will work with her magic stuff because she can summon minions to fight for her. I hope that we get a basic attack button because I don't want to have to summon something over and over again in order to do damage. Because from the trailer, it looked a little clunky to do that. It looked a little slow, not clunky, but slow. And one thing that's really sort of pivotal about 2D Zelda specifically is that 2D Zelda is quick. 2D Zelda is fast. Like killing enemies is quick, exploring the map is quick. You go from one place to the other very fast, and it's just that sort of like a fast-paced sort of experience. It's gonna feel really weird if that game plays really slowly, and it's still the size of the Link to the Past map. There's going to be some imbalance there. So I hope gameplay is as snappy as a 2D Zelda should be.
I'm noticing already, based off of the gameplay, it looks like you have a little D-pad wheel where your wand is associated with one of them. So I imagine she'll get something, and they're maybe just not showing it to us in this build of the game.
Right.
Like, give her an AK. I want to see my girl like shoot. Maybe if like she has like a bow, that could be interesting.
That actually like really line up with some of the interpretations of her too in like other Zelda games.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Bow and piercing swords.
Like, as someone who has enjoyed almost just straight up like every Zelda they've made in the modern like kind of era, I don't have any reason to doubt them on this, and it looks very cute and it looks very fun, and they're doing a lot of neat things with it. Oh yeah, I just saw like she can summon a cannon to just shoot like Octorok cannons at people. That's sick. But like, it's just I'm stoked. It's fun to have something new like this. Like I'm sure it'll be there'll be a lot of growing pains because you're like using this style of game, but having people interact with that world in a different way than what they're used to. But I'm all for something new like this. I'm also very happy that it seems like the Zelda series, it has the security to just experiment, which kind of hasn't, like, there was definitely a period where it was kind of just like stagnating a little bit. And now they're just going for it and making weird, cool ideas. And I want the next Zelda game, like the next mainline game, to be completely different from like Tears of the Kingdom, for example. I just want them to just do shit. Outside of that, let's see. I have now the list of all the things. Marvel 2's coming back. I don't know if anyone
I
hears...
love Marvel vs. Capcom 2. My team was Cyclops, and
that makes sense.
Why does everybody say that?
You are like, you're not a secretive person.
Well, the thing is, like, okay,
your taste, like, speak to you for like a week and you know everything about you, Kazuma.
Wow. Okay. Because like,
chat, I'm sorry not to cut you off, but like, audience, I want you right now to respond in the comments. Give us that engagement. Give us that engagement and let me know if when Cosmo said I love Cyclops, you were like, yeah, that makes sense. Did you nod to that? Did you go, oh yeah, okay?
Yeah.
Is the character lawful? Yes.
That doesn't mean that I like. Oh.
Is he cheeked up?
Yes.
Does he have dad energy? Then yes.
Does he brood over some sort of love lost?
Oh my God, GC, you're like.
Is he over 30?
Okay,
anyway, continue whatever you were gonna say.
Whatever. Okay. Anyways, I don't know why I'm so surprised that I like Cyclops.
Why would we be surprised?
I don't know. It's just because like everybody like I know, like my dad was like, "You like Cyclops? I thought you like Gambit," and I'm like, "I think Gambit's cool. I just think Cyclops is really interesting." And he was just like, "I don't know. That doesn't really seem like you. Gambit's really fruity." My dad basically called me out for like not liking the like one of the queerer characters in X-Men to the same propensity as I like the straight guy. But yeah, no, I really liked MVC2 and I played a lot of MVC3. But I really didn't have any. For like MVC3, like I can remember my like lineup in MVC3 better than I can in MVC2 because MVC2 I played on arcade cabinets. And I was just like, I think the guy with the laser beams, like that's a really big attack. And I don't really like Iron Man. Iron Man's kind of annoying. So I think it was like him and I think Jill was in MVC2, right? Let me see. Let me see the roster.
Wasn't she in 3? I think she was in 3.
She was in 1 before 3 as well. Hang on. Marvel versus Capcom 2 roster. The 50 something characters. Jesus Christ. Okay, yeah, so my roster was Jill, Cyclops, and Venom. Venom, yeah.
Gotta go.
Thank you. Thank you.
Infinite on you.
Yeah. And in MVC3 it was Dante, Virgil, and Phoenix.
Oh
Oh,
wow. Like right or
What do you
the
mean?
Marvel one?
That that's an MVC3 and GC groaning.
No, but like isn't there a Marvel Phoenix?
Yes.
Like the Phoenix?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, I thought you
Yeah.
meant Phoenix Wright, which
No.
that was 2/3 of my list. I
No.
was Phoenix Wright, I think Zero and Dante. And I wouldn't play Virgil because I didn't respect people who played Virgil.
mine was Taskmaster. Oh my god, I just had it in my head. It was Taskmaster, Wolverine, and the Hulk.
That makes sense for
Yeah.
you because you seem like you'd want like an all-rounder, whereas I'm like I need to go in all the time, and if I don't, I'll die.
Mm-hmm.
Charging my X Factor to hear Jean Grey say I can't control it and then wiping an entire team.
I'm so glad that Marvel 2 is back. I have not played that game since, again, arcade cabinets,
Mm-hmm.
like local arcade cabinets. It's exciting that we're getting an official re-release because that game has been absent
With
for
netcode.
so long. Yeah, with like rollback. We're
Hell,
so back.
yeah.
Oh God, I can't wait. I hope they don't fumble it. Don't fumble it, Capcom, please.
I don't think they
I
will.
don't think they will because I played their other like fighting collection.
There's some things that like the Street Fighter collection, for example. I have
Yeah.
a couple like it's not the most intuitive to like play matches online, in my opinion. I think it like boots you back to the main menu every time you're done, and it doesn't know that it's like I just want to keep playing matches. Maybe it's different, or maybe I forget. I don't know, but I'm gonna hope for the best because Marvel 2, we're back.
Yeah, it had to be so over for us to be this back.
I'm looking through now. There's a new like game by the Danganronpa people. It's an SRPG, which looks very interesting. I'll give it an open-minded chance. Apparently, the company went into debt making it,
What?
so no pressure.
Damn. I mean, as someone who doesn't like Danganronpa for fundamentally the same reasons that the creator of Danganronpa doesn't seem to like Danganronpa, I'm really interested in this new thing that they're doing because it's like Danganronpa adjacent, like in terms of theme, like shit's bad, things are dire or whatever, but
Mm-hmm.
there's
Presentation's very
the
similar.
presentation is very similar, but it doesn't seem, it seems to be that the characters are working together to stop something, as opposed to what I hate about Danganronpa, where it's like, and like I know there's like reasons for why there's media like this, and like there's actual like really cool like a really cool origin story about this kind of media, but I cannot stand the battle royale theme premise where a bunch of characters are stuck in a room and they have to kill each other to get out or whatever. Like I cannot stand that about Danganronpa. So I'm excited to play something that is not that, but made by the person that made it, because they seem very talented.
You might like Raincode. It is coming to real consoles this year.
What is Raincode?
It's the latest game before this one from Kodaka, the Danganronpa guy. It's just a detective mystery zone-based 3D exploration game with like Ace Attorney cases that have like combat, and it's so hard to describe. You kind of just have to see it to understand. I'll send you a trailer after this. It's neat. I don't love it, but also I'm just glad it's not Danganronpa, because there is a very definitive ending they put on that series, and they have made their thoughts on that whole genre very clear, because they are also not like very fond of just making more, even though people just want Danganronpa 4.
Mm-hmm.
And I hope this is not that, and continues to be not that. So, and they are just able to tell new stories, because aesthetically they absolutely kill it. This is looking to be a really cool SRPG. Again, not to like be laughed at by a very surface level take, but it was giving me kind of like Fire Emblem in a little bit, like modern Fire Emblem.
Okay.
With like the SRPG stuff, and sure it's different, but like I'm excited. I like SRPGs. I'm glad there are more of them. Please make more.
See, Cullen, I could recommend you strategy RPGs, but you wouldn't like them.
Well, yeah, make them that I like.
Play.
That's what I'm asking.
There's a really fun one called Lost Eidolons. You should play that one.
Show me a picture after this, and I will tell you if I fuck with it or not.
You'll probably be like, no, but it's made by a it's a lower budget SRPG, but it has really interesting mechanics. Like you can if you use like an element on different tiles, you can like if you use electricity on water tiles, you will electrify all the tiles that are covered in water and damage any enemy that's in it.
Oh, I kind of like that.
Yeah, and if you use fire on like trees, you'll set fire to the forest that an enemy is hiding in after you do like you do the regular, I'm going to attack you. You attack them, right? But if you're using like a fire thing, you will then set fire to that tile and do more damage to them if they remain in that tile on their turn. So you literally flush them out of the forest that they're hiding in.
Send me stuff on that after we're done with this, and I'll take a look.
Sure.
But I think really the only thing left I think we could get anything out of is Mario and Luigi Brothership and Metroid. And I imagine we have a lot more to talk about with Mario and Luigi. GC, do you want to take this one? You seem like a Mario and Luigi guy.
No, I'm not actually. I have never played a Mario and Luigi RPG. I played maybe an hour of Superstar Saga, and that's it. But Brothership looks really cool.
I figured you were a Paper Mario guy, so this just seemed like your shit.
No, I'm exclusively a Paper Mario guy. Mario RPGs are sort of foreign to me, but Brothership looks neat. It seems like they're going back to their roots. Again, we're seeing a trend from the Mario RPG area where they seem to be going back to their roots, back to the things that worked for them, that people really like, that fans enjoyed. So this seeing Brothership fills me with more excitement and more hope that we will see a new Paper Mario game in the style of classic Paper Mario. And that'll be very exciting, and that'll be very fun for me.
Well, then, yeah. New game looked good. It is very clear now that they want to make, if not yearly, like very frequent Mario RPGs now. I'm glad that they're expanding the IP in fun ways again instead of just the man-he jump. Wow. But yeah, Metroid Prime 4 looks good. I don't really have anything else to say about it. Looks too good for the Switch, but those people at Rare, they're wizards. No, wait, no, this isn't Rare. That's who the fuck makes Metroid Prime?
Retro
Nintendo?
Studios.
Retro. Yeah, apparently those guys at Retro are wizards, so I believe it. It looks good. Nintendo is kind of killing it. The entire industry around them is catching on fire as all the other companies eat their own shit, and Nintendo's like, no.
For once, doing what you've always done that has worked seems to be working for Nintendo. That's kind of the short and long of it. They're just continuing to do
their own thing,
the same things. They're not jumping onto any bandwagon trends. They're not trying to, like, I don't know, shove AI or NFTs into anything. They're just focusing on their existing IPs and then nurturing their burgeoning IPs and like working on just encouraging like new stuff to come out of their whatever. I don't know, like I'm not a Nintendo fanboy in the slightest, quite the opposite, but Nintendo seems to understand that following trends or trying to like rock the boat or they don't have to cut in front because they are in front, but cut in front of competition, that's not the way to make the money. That's not the way to appease their consumers. Seems like their business strategies are working out for them.
Yeah, I wouldn't say I'm someone who's necessarily like a fanboy either, but it is like when you watch a direct, I notice that there's always going to be something for me. And it's like, I think Nintendo themselves have shown that they have some kind of iffy, scummy business practices, but they know to not get in the way of the creatives and to let them just make stuff. And it's making them money.
Yeah.
So yeah, just like keep it up. I'll get a Switch too.
Nintendo.
They also do a really good job of making the games that they announce that aren't Switch exclusives synonymous with the Switch, which is something that can be attributed, in my opinion, something that can be attributed to the presentation style of the Direct, where the Direct is full of Nintendo branding and full of like Nintendo based like the stylings. So when you look at instead of there being like a fucking bland, a great example of this, right? When you watch a State of Play or an Xbox conference or a Summer Games Fest and you see world premiere flash across the screen, my eyes glaze over and I'm like, okay, yeah, just get to it. Whereas Nintendo will have like a fun little headline.
Yeah, a guy's like, get ready to slurp your dorp in Nintendo's upcoming adventure.
In this
Mario's gonna suck your cock.
Whatever. Yeah, like
you mentioned that Nintendo branding, and I was like, Horizon Zero Dawn.
Yeah,
they're having the Lego game come out for that, right? My first thought was the version on Nintendo Switch and not the one on any other platform.
Yeah. Because in the Direct, they were like, get ready for a brand new adventure. And then there's like a little headline that's like a Lego fantasy for all ages or something. And then they do the little swipe and then you get the trailer and then somebody's talking over it. And it's like in your brain, you're like, a Nintendo game presented to me by Nintendo.
The Nintendo Switch game.
Yeah.
I can't believe like Sony is relying on Nintendo to sell like copies of their games now. That's a bit, because Xbox has been doing that for a bit, but now like Sony as well. Like, what is going on?
It's a sign of the times, man. A sign of the times.
And it sucks because I don't want Nintendo to have a monopoly, because monopolies are bad.
They're not going to have a monopoly. That's a bit of an overstatement there, buddy.
Okay, we are literally on a comedy podcast. I can exaggerate for comedic effect. And also, if you didn't interrupt me, you'd hear what I was saying.
Okay.
Rude, you're going to get edited to say like, I'm dumb, I'm dumb, I'm dumb. You should say that real quick. Unrelated.
I'm dumb.
Okay, cool. Thanks.
Okay.
We got him. No, it's just like, I don't mean like a monopoly exactly, because obviously people are always going to play the other ones, but like, if Nintendo is the only one really making money right now in hardware sales and like game sales, that's not good. That's not what a healthy industry should be. They should not be the only ones doing good. It frustrates me that no one will just follow them by like example even a little bit, because we have Xbox who keep fucking like closing all their studios and devaluing the like process of paying money for games with Game Pass, which is like too like pro-consumer in a way, where they have now had to fuck over a lot of their studios because it's impossible to like make a profit on Xbox anymore.
Yep.
Well, ultimately it's an anti-consumer practice, because ultimately people who opt into Game Pass don't actually own their games, or own them even less than they would if they had a digital copy. And then on top of that, it ruins the industry ecosystem and like makes everything bad, like you were saying. So like it is actually anti-consumer. It's just anti-consumer in like a really roundabout way.
Yeah, where they didn't like. Here's the thing. I think of like the like Joe Schmo who like wouldn't like. Oh, I wouldn't go like. I don't know if I want to spend $60 on this game, but I'd play it for free. I could get a month or so out of this. It's like there's a lot of value there for people who are okay with what they're doing. And then again, you can always just like buy the game later. But also again, they've fucked up the ecosystem. Like every time there's like an Xbox trailer or like a port on Xbox, you'll just see people go like, "Oh, all right, I'll wait for Game Pass."
Can I just fucking say, this is so goddamn frustrating, because they've put themselves in this situation and they're like, oh, no one wants to buy games anymore. They want to do Game Pass. And it's like, well, we just wanted to provide a service where people who weren't going to buy a game originally can try a game out. And it was like, we had that, bro. It was called rentals, and you fucked it up when you started to push for more digital media.
Yes. I miss you, Blockbuster. I miss you, Hollywood Video. Please come back.
Does Redbox still
no.
rent games?
No.
That was like actually like, that was legit. I really enjoyed Redbox renting games. I used to bike over to the Redbox at the 7-Eleven near my place to like rent a bunch of 360 games and then just play those. And I was able to like play so many new releases because they'd always have them the same day. where you could just rent these like brand new games, have them for like a couple days, and then just bring them back. And most games are not that like of that era. We're not that long anyway. So I could get a ton of value out of that. And again, they just don't do it anymore. And you're wondering how to like how we fix the piracy problem. And it's like, well,
then we stop using subscription-based services.
That's
and we go back to the way things were. That's just kind of that, right? It's all, again, like the idea of that subscription-based service. Like you can just, again, we talk about this like I think almost every podcast, that like Game Pass doesn't make a profit like for the developers that are part of it. This has been disclosed by like people that have had games that were published on Game Pass. Are like, yeah, it really just is money to help us like get through development, with the promise that it'll be all like on Game Pass or whatever. But like you actually need to buy the games elsewhere to support the developers. Like you need to buy it on Steam. And I don't think there's anything wrong with just waiting and biting the bullet, like just waiting and buying that game on Steam when it's on a Steam sale. I know it sucks to have to wait and not be part of something that's happening at the same time as everybody else, but I think it's the better option, because then you also own that game and you can play it on your own time instead of feeling like, oh, fuck, I have to like play now because I have it on a subscription and I need to just do it before my subscription runs out or whatever.
Free yourself from FOMO.
Yeah, exactly. Like that was the kind of feeling I'd actually get with certain MMOs, by the way, is that, oh, I put down the time. I paid the money. Now I need to put in the most amount of time to get the benefit out of that, service, which is not a good way to think. You should play games on your own time, on your own terms, and don't be afraid to just wait for a sale or buy a game used.
I can't lie to you though. I am, I guess, part of the problem. There's a bunch of games Microsoft showed off that's coming out this year or like next year that I'm like, oh, I'm definitely just getting that on Game Pass.
I think that's fine.
Like that Indiana Jones game, for example, I would probably not buy that on launch, but I'll have it for free.
On the Game Pass.
On the Game Pass.
On the Game Pass. Yeah, if you want to support developers, go and buy their games. Like, actually go buy their games.
Yes.
Which is frustrating, because if like it was out on like other platforms, I'd probably just buy it there. But I like my Series S as a little Game Pass machine, so it is beneficial to me. And I try to buy stuff on Steam sales like when I can. It's really just the Xbox Studios games where it's like, well, I can't get this elsewhere. I guess I'll get it for free. Thanks.
Sorry, I'm eating right now, but...
Oh, eating on the podcast. You're the bozo of the ep.
I am.
You're a fucking phony. But
well,
yeah, industry's fucked.
Like, yeah, industry's... Oh, we didn't even lead with that. Industry sucks and so do we. That's the fucking motto of the podcast.
I mean, that's your motto, and it's a bit self-deprecating. I don't think I suck.
I mean, maybe we do, maybe we don't.
Chad, who sucks the most on the podcast?
I do. I'm claiming that title for myself.
The sucker.
Yep. I love to suck. But in relation to like Nintendo and Xbox and Sony and stuff, is that Nintendo's kind of like the only one that really has any kind of like exclusivity anymore when it comes to their titles. Where like when I see something announced on like the Xbox showcase, I'm like, I can get that on PC. I'm not going to buy it on console. So like, no. Or even Sony now, I'm like, why would I buy a PlayStation 5 when I could just wait for it to come to PC whenever that happens?
Yeah.
Nintendo, I'm like, I need a Switch so I can go and play Zelda.
Yeah. And they're doing, like, the Switch is like 8 years old, and that's still, like, games are still barely running on that thing, but, it's selling.
But here's the thing, right? Like, I don't even think it's a matter of like, oh, they have the exclusives. I think more importantly, they have interesting exclusives.
Yes.
Where it's like,
yes, that's the important.
It's like, what are the exclusives for Sony? They all, and sorry if I'm again being reductive here, but they're the same fucking game.
God of War, The Last of Us, and
God of War, The Last of Us, Horizon. They're all these fucking AAA games with like the same sort of gameplay elements. Like they're the fucking same game.
Milquetoast protagonist.
Yeah, and I don't even know
the examination of fatherhood by men in their 30s.
I don't even know what Xbox's exclusives are, but like they clearly don't nurture them.
Gears of War.
Yeah, like they clearly don't give a fuck about their exclusives. and they don't care to like create like vastly different kinds of exclusives that are like fresh and interesting, and they're more focused with acquiring new studios instead of like nurturing the IPs that they already had. So it's like it's not even a matter of Nintendo has exclusives. No, Nintendo's like the only company that has exclusives that are vastly different from each other. They have their exclusive that's a platformer. They have their action adventure exclusive. They have their third-person shooter exclusive. They have their
Animal Crossing.
They have their life sim exclusive. Like, they have exclusives that are vastly different from each other. So like, and I think that actually contributes to their success in terms of like the whole exclusivity thing. Whereas like all these other fucking exclusives from these other companies, like I can get that experience anywhere. I can get the Horizon Zero Dawn experience from a Ubisoft game.
Literally, I was gonna say you were literally playing Origins. And I'm like, if I want my bad dad simulator, I can go and play fucking Assassin's Creed Origins. I don't need to go play The Last of Us.
The exception to the rule seems to be like that Astrobot game, and I'm sure that's going to do better than Sony is expecting, and they're going to be like, whoa, people want this? And it's like, people have been telling you they have wanted this for so long. Sony is so frustrating because they are sitting on a gold mine of IPs that people want back, and they're like, well, we would rather spend 6 years and $1 quadrillion making Last of Us 10.
Please give me the Legend of Dragoon. Please, I want it back so bad.
Make a new Spyro the Dragon.
I don't think they own that anymore. That's
EA. They don't own it.
EA owns Spyro now?
Or no, is it Activision?
It's Activision. It's Microsoft.
So it's Microsoft now. Wow.
Yep. And they shut down the studio that was making the
Toys for Bob.
Yeah.
Did you see that they had the gall to announce that the Insane trilogy has now sold like 20 million copies?
I'm gonna kill myself.
Yeah, they're literally like fancy, like, guys, we did it, 20 million. And everyone's like, oh my God, this is great. And I'm like, no, it's not.
The studio's
This isn't going to mean anything. This is not going to lead to new games. This is literally just lining the pockets of executives. They fucking fired everyone who made this and made the sequel. What's wrong with you people?
And then we wonder, and then they sit there and they wonder why they're losing money, and why, and then people wonder why are they trying to sell their games on PC? Why are they doing this? And it's because they have to, because they shot themselves in the fucking foot, and then they put their foot in their mouth, and now they're choking on the blood.
And then Phil Spencer walks out on stage and says, "We at Xbox are proud to announce Splorbo Blorbo's new adventure. Exclusive."
Never mind, we killed everyone who was working on it. The game will not be coming out.
Here at Xbox, we love games, and we love our audience more. We decided, why not combine the two? You've all just been chained to your seats. Underneath your seats, you will find a puzzle that you will have to solve before this auditorium fills with water. For every escapee, we will acquire a new studio.
Oh my God, me just sitting there refusing to fucking get my puzzle box.
I do not want Xbox to buy Square. That would be so bad.
That would be terrible.
That would be the actual worst. It sucks that as soon as I started coming around on Xbox, because I liked my Series S that I bought pre-owned, by the way, for cheap. Like, there's like, no, we suck, actually. You were right before. I'm like, God, I didn't want this to be true.
I still want to get a Series X just for the backwards compatibility stuff.
It's great. It's genuinely great.
That's like for work. Like, that's not for fun for me.
No, it will end. That's what I said, GC. I was like, it's for work. It's so I could play Panzer Dragoon Orga Orda on the original Xbox. Yeah, it's for work. And I was like, oh wait, I like this thing. I missed the 360. Hold on.
I want to play Lost Odyssey.
Oh yeah, but only like the first half of Lost Odyssey.
I keep telling people, man, that when you get to that fucking like past like that 1.5 discs or whatever, it's just like, just stop playing the game.
Yeah, once you get to like, once the game opens up and it's like, do whatever you want now, go exploring. I'm like, I don't want to. I liked having my hand held through a linear story. That was fun.
I just can't stand Jansen. I look at him and I hiss. Truly one of Sakaguchi's greatest compet Final Fantasy games I've ever played in my life. Anyways, speaking of compulsory heterosexuality, this is not a segue that's gonna lead to anything meaningful, but we didn't do our homework.
Oh, yeah.
None of us?
None of us did our homework.
None of us did our homework.
Yeah.
You did? Wait, what was our homework?
Mine was
I know I
watching-
had to.
We had to watch all those movies.
Yeah.
Oh God, GC, you didn't do your homework? That makes me sad.
We were gonna watch the movie together. Remember? We agreed
Yeah.
Oh,
we were
yeah,
gonna watch
never mind,
the
that's on
movies
me.
together, and then we ended up not watching the movies together because we had a lot more fun just hanging out and shooting the shit.
Yeah.
Also, I was reviewing
specifically
Elden
said
Ring.
that-
Oh, so yeah.
Well, yeah, but you're always reviewing something, Kazuma. Your excuse doesn't mean anything.
Oh.
That's so
With me, I specifically said, no, Kazuma, I don't want to watch this with you because you'll be the bitch in the ear the whole time being like, isn't this kind of bad?
No,
I'm like,
I'd be
"Oh my
totally
goodness."
silent. I'd be
No,
totally
I know,
silent. Yeah.
I'm kidding.
Also, instead of watching
not.
those movies, I ended up watching House of the Dragon with some of my friends.
I watched a lot of MILF Manor. Oh wait, I started something much better than fucking whatever Army Hammer Eat the People. I started watching Sex in the City, and I'm a Sex in the City guy now.
Yes.
I fucking love Sex in the City. I'm only like 4 episodes in, but I'm so excited for my girlfriend and I to watch more Sex in the City. I'm Team Samantha. I think she should continue living her best life. I heard she does not because the actors did not get along. There's actually a lot of stuff I hear just like happens later on as you go into the like season that really, or series that really bums me out. Like the fact that the fourth wall stuff is dropped and the interviewing people about the topic of the episode gets dropped. But apparently Mr. Big is always there to stay, and I love me some Big.
Oh, he's gonna go away because he got outed as like sex pest.
The actor?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
I saw a preview of the finale like on the streaming service, and he was there.
Yeah, later on, because there's like stuff beyond Sex in the City that he's in.
Well, no, I'm just talking about Sex
Okay,
in the City,
okay,
like
then,
the
yeah,
show.
Then yeah, you'll be fine. But
I don't care about like the actors. Yeah, I don't. He's
You-
terrible. He's Mr. Big. For all I know.
you know, I think I know you like the fourth wall breaking stuff. It's because you really like Alan Wake.
Not necessarily. I think I like Alan Wake because there's some meta in it.
Yeah.
I just like I enjoy that they're willing to do that for a show as old as it was. It felt like it was kind of trend setting in a way.
Mm-hmm.
Because I immediately when I saw this, like, this does not feel like it's from the 90s. And then I go, oh, so this is how all these shows kind of got this. That Sex in the City did it first.
I think Ally McBeal did it first, technically, and then
Okay.
Sex in the City.
Oh yeah, no, apparently that guy has like multiple sexual assault allegations. That's fucked.
Yeah.
Mr. Big, why did you fail me like this?
It's okay. Carrie Bradshaw won't fail you.
She better not.
And neither will Samantha. Oh, I have to sneeze again.
Samantha, you're the best. I'm rooting for you the most. But yeah, not too much to really say on Sex in the City because I'm only 4 episodes in, but I have had a consistently fun time watching all the episodes. I like the humor. I like the girls. It's fun to see these topics discussed from a female perspective because you don't often get that in these kind of like. Would you call Sex in the City a sitcom?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kinda. Like, it feels like a very like fresh take on all this that I appreciate. And you know, it's got that HBO-ness to it where you'll see a boob randomly, but also there's this like flippant way they will talk about sexuality, which I think is kind of like refreshing, especially because a lot of like media nowadays is so like hesitant to really get in. Like, I don't know, I'm not to be like everything's so sanitized these days, but like I'm only now trying to experience more art that is not necessarily like for the whole family or whatnot. So it's just nice. I'm liking the show a lot. And I got a couple seasons more to enjoy, which is good.
Yeah, you have a lot to chew on. Are you gonna watch the
a lot
movies
of
too?
big to chew on. Oh, of course I'm gonna watch the movies.
Okay, I
I'm
love
in.
that for you.
I'm locked the fuck in.
All right. Well, GC said he start watching House of the Dragon with me. So are you in or not?
Was this to me?
To you, yeah.
No, fuck no.
Oh my God. I'm never gonna get Cullen to watch fantasy shows with me.
No, because you'll just spend the whole time like drooling over old ugly men. There'd be some guy with like liver spots. He's like, I'm a bit problematic, but in a cool way.
You sound
like, humana.
You sound like Worthy Kids.
Oh, Yoda, you old sponge.
Yeah. No. I just want to watch it to get with GC for his like reactions as the things that will happen.
Oh, I'm sure GC would like it.
Yeah.
I'd probably get bored.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be into it just because it's fantasy, and I haven't watched like a solid like fantasy show in a long time, if ever.
And there are still dragons, so it's like not Game of Thrones like low-ish mid fantasy. It's like high fantasy.
Yeah.
Is this a prequel or a sequel?
It is a prequel.
Oh.
The book is interesting because it's written like a history book with a bunch of like anecdotes where it's like, well, we heard so-and-so was fucking, and then someone's like, like fucking amendum or whatever. This was in fact not true, and somebody else adds a thing that actually it was true. No, it wasn't true, and people like arguing in the Wikipedia comments, basically. So it's a very interesting book. And because everything is a lot of hearsay, what they choose to adapt is sometimes just things that you thought were rumors that they've been like, okay, well, we decided for the show that it's actually going to be like what happened. There's some stuff where they've taken liberties, and I'm just kind of like, that's a little weird. I don't know about that. But other than that, I'm just like, yes, my emotional support dragon show.
I'm excited. When I get back from my trip, we will watch it, and I will report back with my opinions. My onions.
I think that covers everything we've kind of engaged with, because it is getting a little long, and Cullen has to edit the podcast this week.
Yeah, unfortunately, this is a Cullen joint.
Yeah, which means there's gonna be a lot of audio clips of me being spliced together to say things that I've never said before.
Or just you saying I'm dumb.
Okay.
I'm dumb.
Just very silently in the distance, just over and over again.
I'm dumb.
I'm dumb. I'm dumb.
I'm dumb.
I'm dumb.
I'm dumb.
Set to like a war drum.
Dumb. 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 Dumb.
Dumb.
Dumb.
So, because we didn't have questions last week,
We got questions.
we got questions.
We got 2 questions.
We got
but
two
first,
questions.
let's do homework.
Okay. Oh shit.
What are we? Yeah, we gotta assign people shit.
Second verse, same as the first. Go watch the black and white Johnny Mnemonic movie.
Okay. Are we not changing the who's assigning who because we didn't do our homework?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Cullen, I'm gonna be really kind to you,
Oh.
and I want you to watch Bridget Jones's Diary.
What the fuck is that?
It's what started the whole chick lit phenomena in America, which includes like Sex in the City.
Bridget Jones' Diary. I think
That's
I'm pretty sure Sex and the City came out before this.
I think so. Hang on. I think they were almost congruent because Bridget Jones's Diary was like a really, really big hit, and then Sex in the City was a really, really big hit too. But it was when chick lit was really popular, which is like short for like, I don't know, like woman literature. And I really liked reading chick lit at the time because Sex in the City is considered chick lit as well.
I mean, okay.
So maybe you'll like it, maybe you won't. It's like a romantic comedy kind of thing.
All right. I'll throw it on sometime.
Watch it with your girlfriend.
I'll try. Okay. Well, shit. I didn't have anything in mind for GC. I'm looking around my room right now. Fuck.
Just make me go watch that Macross movie again.
GC, watch Macross Do You Remember Love?
Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe I'll do it while I'm in Vegas.
Vegas?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, podcast listeners, I'm going to Vegas for like a week. It's going to be fun. I'm going to try not to gamble.
I will give you permission to have Balatro on your Steam Deck to convince you to play that instead of actually gambling.
That's good. I guess I should point out that my version of gambling isn't like slot machines, so like that doesn't really interest me. So I'll probably be fine at the casinos because my gambling takes the form of like other shit, like buying booster packs for card games and playing gacha games. Like that's more like what my for lack of a better word, what my addiction like leans towards. Slot machines just don't do it for me. Except that one time that I blew all my money in Vegas. Okay, so maybe slot. Okay, I'll be careful. I'm there for my dad. I'm there for my dad for my dad's for Father's Day. So
Hell yeah. Late Father's Day.
yeah, I leave in 6 hours.
Oh, yeah. Wow. That's soon. Are you just not sleeping tonight?
Yeah, pretty much.
Cool.
Wow.
Now you're in my dimension.
You're in my domain.
Well, I guess we can kind of just go over to questions.
Yeah.
Yes. All right. So we got 2 questions today.
Mm-hmm.
Our first one is from our regular Sonia.
Yes.
Good evening, burned buddies. I got into trails a little. This might be a Cullen-centric question.
That's fine.
I love Cullen-centric questions. We don't get them often. Typically, I go, oh, while you two have deep discussions. I got into trails, which is, I'm not even going to explain trails to the audience. Look, you have Google. I got into trails a little after all the hype and hot takes surrounding Cold Steel died down. I marathoned the games in order from April 2022 through that December, put down CS for 1/3 of the way through instead replay the official release of Zero. In parentheses. Thank you so much, Cullen, for your work on the Geofront project and localizing one of my favorite games of all time. I love you for that. Thank you again. I must say, disclaimer, I did work on the original patch for Trails from Zero, which my work was not in the official release, but my name is still in the credits. Shout out to my channel script editor, Zerker, for being the lead on that project. Which is how we met and how we both got involved in both of these things. So yeah, shout out to Zerker. As a result, if I ever hear anything about Cold Steel, it's always only vague allusions to the drama surrounding past discussion of it and never any real discussion of its failings compared to the rest of the franchise or of any merits it has. With that said, my question for Cullen and any other burned buddies who may have dipped their toes into trails is, can you talk about any unique, interesting, or overarching successes and or failings you think the Cold Steel series in particular has? You don't have that dog in you anymore and or do not want to attract any ire from Trails fans. May I instead ask your thoughts, opinions on Azure or the Crossbell duology as a whole? Best regards, Sonia. And
Thank you,
know
Sonia.
what? Bonus question for Kazuma. Would you smooch, oh God, I don't know what this name is, Regent Lord Lorthamar Theron?
Okay,
You know what that
immediately
is?
came up and, yeah, I would.
I'm gonna stop the podcast and do a Google, and
He
I
has
will
an
see
eye
if
patch. He's like an old elf. Like, it's fine.
Don't spoil it. Don't spoil it.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, GC will know who this is. He's a Warcraft character.
The Mar Regent Lord the Mar. Oh yeah.
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 That doesn't surprise me.
Yeah.
Okay. So there's a lot. This is a very loaded Cullen-centric question, and you are correct. I don't talk about Trails because I think Cold Steel broke a lot of people's brains in a lot of very unfortunate, toxic ways. One of the reasons why I do not often talk about Trails, if I'm going to be like all 100% genuine, is that I do have friends who I genuinely respect who do love the Cold Steel games. And I have noticed that a lot of the talking points around Cold Steel are just so bad faith by nature. Because one thing I've kind of found is that a lot of the Trails fandom kind of got created from this, like, those original Persona fans who got jaded once Persona 5 got popular. So they were very eager to find something new to like latch onto as their niche thing. And so that thing kind of became Trails as this up and comer niche franchise that didn't have a lot of games localized.
Mm-hmm.
And then Cold Steel got a bit popular. They switched over to a publisher with a lot more funding for like marketing, NIS America. And so 3 and 4 kind of caused this resurgence for the series in the West. And because of that, Trails fans do a lot of infighting. There's a lot of elitism that comes from these fans that are often from the perspective that you do need to play all the games in a particular order, which I don't think is entirely off merit, but I think that's more of a failing on Falcom's part as writers. There's definitely value in long running franchises, but when your games are 13 games long, they become impenetrable. And when new people want to come into these and they're told, no, you have to go play some old PSP games first. Like you have to go play 5 PSP games before you can play any of the ones you might want to play that are new. That is not a good look. So we have a lot of fans who are constantly arguing about all these micro things in there. And then you kind of get to Cold Steel, which there's a talking point for the Cold Steel games is that's when they got to anime. I'm far enough away from these games now to say that these games have always been anime. It's just that the old ones were anime of the like mid 2000s and the Cold Steel games are anime of the 2010s. So you have a lot more fan service. You have a lot more like flat, like there's a more of a focus on action in a way that I feel like a lot of the writing of those old games, like the style of writing of those older games kind of gets dropped. There was definitely a transitional period from okay, I'm struggling here to keep like this comprehensible to anyone who's not as invested as I am, because I'm way too far gone. There are 3 arcs in Trails before this most recent one. That's we're getting localized in a couple weeks. There was the Sky games, which was Trails in the Sky, 1st, 2nd, and 3rd. There was the Crossbell duology, which was Trails from Zero and Trails to Azure. And then the popular one is Trails of Cold Steel. And there are 5 Trails of Cold Steel games.
Didn't I play like 4 or 3 or something?
You did, which I thought it was very funny that you played 4 without playing any of the others, because 4 is the furthest from a introduction point as you can get, because it is meant to wrap up like at the very least 4 games, at the very most like 11.
11?
Well, there's 5, no, 9. So there are like, because again, Cold Steel 4 was meant to end everything that came before. Then they actually made another game that did that properly. But it is the final, at the time, it was envisioned as the final Cold Steel game and the game to wrap up the plots of the previous 2 arcs of storytelling. And you have a bit of a problem in a game like that because Falcom does not have a lot of money anymore. They are a low budget studio. I'd say they're mid budget, but they're on the lower end of mid budget.
Okay.
So when you have this problem with when their ambition gets too large and there's no one at the company that says don't do this, you'll have an issue where there's like 50 NPCs standing in a room and they all need to say something. And you've got this like cast bloat that comes specifically from Cold Steel, mostly because they had good intentions and they were trying to really expand the world, because that was the first time they were able to truly like make 3D games in this series. Like the games were 3D before, but they were like little 2D chibi sprites on 3D like worlds. So Cold Steel is when they actually went to like Vita and PS3, so they had the money to try to make these things more realized. But there's been budget issues from the beginning. Cold Steel 1 and 2 were meant to be one game called Cold Steel, but that got split into 2 games, but they clearly had more in mind for Cold Steel 1 than Cold Steel 2, because Cold Steel 1 is like, oh, it's this fun little like, it's a Persona like, it's, you know, you're a student in an academy and you're going on these little adventures, and it builds up to a point where Cold Steel 2 is a game about a civil war. Well, it turns out they did not have that much written about that civil war. So a lot of the things you do in Cold Steel 2 feel like kind of fluff, like you're just kind of wasting time. And that kind of carries over to Cold Steel 3 and 4 as well, where they had this whole thing in mind for one game, and then they had to split it into 2. Because Falcom needs to make a game every year, you do not have the time to refine on these ideas or truly flesh them out in a satisfying way, because you are reusing assets and you're reusing content and you're rushing this shit out, and you don't have a lot of money for like voice actors. So a lot of the cutscenes are not voiced or awkwardly voiced. And so there's a constant like inconsistent experience across these. But as I say that, I used to be a big hater for these games, and I grew up, frankly. And I kind of want to give the Cold Steel games another shot, because I do think there's a lot of value in those games. Even if I don't like all of the directions they went in, I think that the 5th game of that Cold Steel series kind of salvaged a lot of those ideas. That is Trails into Reverie, I believe. So that 5th game kind of did a lot in making me warm up to those characters I was kind of just burnt out of. But I think Cold Steel is at its best with its characters. When they're allowed to kind of just be themselves and not revolve around Reen. I think Reen is best when he is able to kind of like self-reflect, but also I feel like the series gets a bit too into its like that idea of its protagonist feeling like he has like pushed himself too far and like self-sacrifices to the point where it like hurts his health and it puts him in these like really like serious situations. That's like very interesting stuff. I just think they kind of use that a bit too much. Like I feel like Cold Steel is constantly this like struggle between great ideas, not great execution. And a lot of that is just because I think there's too much of it. But there like some people like when things are that long, and I don't want to take that away from them because there is value in that. But I just kind of got burnt out of all of those. And I don't really like the combat in those games. I played 4 of them. I don't think the combat ever truly like grows or improves or evolves. It kind of threatens to from 2 to 3, and then you realize it's just the same thing as it always was. So I stopped really enjoying the combat of those. And it's another reason why I struggled to answer this question is that I think of Cold Steel and I just remember being burnt out. They're very hard games for me to feel as like invested in because I think the writing is not always the best. And by writing, I specifically mean dialogue. I don't feel like they are able to often get the best dialogue out of their characters. They fall back on exposition quite a lot. But they're very good at nailing the big moments. And I think that's why like a game like Cold Steel 2, which is in that like Civil War like tone, is so satisfying, is because there's a decent amount of stakes. There are characters that actually die. Like it's only a couple of them, but like it feels like you're feeling a lot of weight behind this. Whereas like Cold Steel 4 falls back into like another like war story, but there is never a moment where we feel like the war has weight because characters, they do fake out deaths like so often where characters will be like, no, I'm fine. And I think that's okay to do. But if you're doing that so much that I think like spend that game going, okay, I already know everything's going to happen and none of these stakes mean anything. And then I'm proven right. I get a bit bummed out by that. And that is one of the problems that they have addressed and that I'm not as like upset about anymore. But I think with me, Cold Steel is just kind of like a bit of wasted potential with a lot of really good ideas. And it is absolutely insufferable to talk about online because you have Cold Steel fans who will just shit on everything else in the series, and fans of the older games who will just nonstop shit on Cold Steel. And you can't have fucking conversations about this because the internet is full of egotistical idiots who just want to be right all the time. And they don't want to engage critically or talk about why things might not work. It's always about putting others down and be like, oh, you didn't like this? You're a fucking idiot. Oh, how could you like that? I like this. I'm better than you. And it's why I've really narrowed the amount of people I will talk about Trails with to like one person.
Understandable.
Also, there's some weird imperialism stuff.
Yeah, the imperialist fart gas is what really killed me.
Yeah, it's like, I don't think that's great. But you play the other games around that, and it's like, I think you guys kind of stumbled into this because you have to write a 100-hour game in less than in a couple months.
Yeah.
Cold Steel 4 is full of so many ideas where it's like, if you guys knew your deadline was so rough, why did you write this much? And it is unfortunately because those games were known as like monster 100-hour RPGs that they need to hit those like big content amounts to continue selling the games. It's just, there's so much about Falcom that needs rework. And it's really just because I think that they need to put out games every year to stay afloat, that we're getting kind of inconsistent games. Having said that, I played the demo for the new Trails game. It's absolutely great. I'm so excited for it. It is a breath of fresh air that fixes everything I did not like about the Cold Steel games in so many ways. And I'm excited. I think Trails could have a glowing future ahead of it. I don't know if the other games in the current arc are any good. It seems like Falcom's kind of struggling to keep sales going because they're already wrapping up their new arc with a third game.
Oh.
And it's like, oh, is everything good? But I think they're kind of struggling with the same issues everyone else in the industry is kind of struggling with. And with them in particular, they're not doing what a lot of the other Japanese RPG companies are doing, which is pushing for worldwide releases so they can make money from the Western like fan base who clearly likes their games. And instead, they are sending their scripts over to their Western partner way too late. And then the fans will get mad and be like, oh, NIS America is like making us wait for these games. And it's like, and if you know anything about the localization industry, it takes two to tango. Like, these are massive games with big scripts.
Mm-hmm.
And it is very obvious. Like, if Falcom wanted us to have these games, we would have them because these games come out in like China, like day and date with Japan. It's like they are choosing, I think, to like lose out on a market of people who are very like passionate about these games, and they are making an unhappy audience. And I think a lot of that has to do a bit with the fact that like the West was very behind on these games, and now we're like almost caught up to where Japan was. A lot of these games got really late localizations. But now that we're there, it's like, Falcom, if you want to be serious about this, you need to send your scripts out to your Western publishers and push really hard for like simultaneous localizations. Like, that is going so far for like Sega, for all these other companies who are bothering to do this because they know, they saw the market, they saw the like Japanese sales like dip a little bit, and they noticed that every time one of these games were coming out in English, they were getting bumps in sales because since 2017, a lot of Japanese like games have just been doing better and better and better. And Falcom has failed to hop on that in a timely manner, and it's just making people unhappy. And when you have a fan base that continues to be unhappy and have more and more to complain about, obviously you're going to just kind of create a toxic environment, even if you didn't intend that. What the fuck am I talking about?
Yeah,
Trails?
because I think that like when you're talking about this, it's like that kind of elitism, right? Of like, well, I experienced this before you. Like, I imported it. I learned the language. I mastered the mystic arts too, you know.
I played it on a spreadsheet translation, which people were doing for the longest time because the wait was so long. And it's like, I'm sorry to tell you this, like, localization is a long process no matter what. Nowadays, though, when all these other games are getting localized, like, you know, worldwide, we are not seeing how long it takes anymore because these companies are working with like the Western branches hand in hand so that we can just get all this in time.
Well, it's also depending on like what companies they're also like having localized their stuff, right?
Oh yeah, for sure. But also it's like it seems obvious that Falcom is just not sending their scripts out. Like, the focus is all hands on deck on the Japanese release, and then maybe the West will get in like 3 years. And it's like, that's just not, it's probably working now because I'm sure you guys are running on thin margins. You got to adapt. I'm sorry. You got to work more with your Western publishers if you want the series to be a success. And then maybe finally people can stop having insufferable conversations on the internet.
I don't have much to add, but as an outsider, I would like to say that I honestly believe that they should maybe depart from the Trails series entirely.
You are correct.
As an outsider, I've only seen Cold Steel 4, and I didn't like what I saw of Cold Steel 4, but I can acquiesce that I don't have the wherewithal to understand the interactions between characters, and I haven't experienced those characters in previous games to really care about them in Cold Steel 4, but I will say that the bloat was very noticeable. And also, as someone who wants to play Trails, I don't, because of the fact that it's very intimidating to be like, okay, play these 9 games and remember all of these characters and all this information because it's going to pay off in the equivalent of 10 years down the road of video games. And it's like, I don't want to do that. I don't want to put that investment. And it's very easy if you're already in it and you've been playing these games or following along with the series in the way that you have been. But it is very intimidating and very staggering because I can't just pick up Cold Steel 4 and play that. I can't just pick up Cold Steel 2 or Cold Steel 3 or even just Cold Steel. I can't just pick up those games and play them because there's so much information that I have to know beforehand. There's so many other games that I have to play before for things to really have the same impact that I just don't end up picking up the series at all. And I know I'm not alone on that. I'm sure there's plenty of people that feel that way. And I think that ultimately hurts Falcom in the long run. And I think Falcom fans, Trails fans, will be happy with, or they should be happy. Like, you should be excited if Falcom comes out and says, we're going to do a new IP. And I think people...
Which they are.
And I think people that have been interested in playing a Falcom game, but don't because of like how much of it they would have to invest in, I think they're excited for this new thing that they're doing as well. And I think ultimately that's like the right move.
See, I played Cold Steel 4, and that was the first time I'd ever gotten people to tell me to kill myself over a review.
Oh yeah, Falcom fans are ridiculous.
So based on that interaction, I would never play a Falcom game ever again.
That's fair.
Yeah.
GC, to kind of build off of what you're saying, and I think that's how they kind of fucked themselves over a little bit, is because the Trails Through Daybreak is the one coming out in English finally next
that's Kuro,
in
right?
a couple weeks. That's Kuro, yes.
Okay.
Kuro was made specifically not just like the start of a new arc, but the next chapter. Like, and I think from now, like, Kuro 2 kind of brings back some characters from the previous stuff, but like Kuro was meant to be the new entry point. It was kind of them being like, okay, we know that we kind of made a big mess and we're learning from this, and we took a bit of a break and we have a new engine, we have a new like combat system. You can start here. But Kuro did not really do that great financially. So I think they had a lot of plans, and with the game that is set to come out this year, it is seeming like what they are doing is wrapping up things like this whole arc a lot faster than they intended to, so they can move on. Because I think they have realized they have made a series that has just been too long and people are getting stagnant on it.
Yeah, I mean, the longer it goes on and the more involved and the more you have to stay up to date on it, and the more that the world building and the lore becomes integral to enjoying those games, the more niche that becomes.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you don't have that problem with like a Dragon or with Final Fantasy or with Dragon Quest, like these long running RPGs, because you don't need to have all this information, and there aren't 50 characters that you have to recognize to enjoy those things.
I mean, a little bit with Like a Dragon, but I think those games do a better job at being a bit more approachable.
Yeah.
Mostly because every game is entirely like new, even if they carry a lot over between them.
Mm-hmm.
But like they're kind of having the same problem with like Ys, where I think people aren't as entirely like tired of just Trails. People are kind of just, I think, becoming tired of Falcom. And that sucks because I think Falcom, like game quality wise, is in one of their new heydays. Like their games are like, they're kind of back. I played an import of Ys 10 and I'm like, oh, this is really cool looking. And the English version comes out this year. And it's like, oh, cool. Like I get like a bunch of good Falcom games coming out this year, and I'm really excited for that. But I don't think people will share that opinion with me. And it's a bit of a bummer, but Falcom kind of did this to themselves. And what they seem to be doing now, their next game after this like Trails game coming out this year, is they're bringing back an old revival of an IP called Tokyo Xanadu, and that has been dormant for like 10 years. And that's if they're able to make this as like completely fresh from like Trails, I think they have a potential to like make a successful game, because Tokyo Xanadu was really successful. It was kind of wild how they just blew it and just focused on making a bunch of Trails and diluted their brand when they had this new fresh IP to mess with. Like Xanadu was something that exists already, but Tokyo Xanadu was primed to just build off of. And like it takes place in a modern Tokyo setting, which is a lot like it's easier for people to get into more than just like this like weird kind of futurish fantasy thing. But like Trails is also trying to now be a bit more modern day with its setting. So it's like, I feel like they've learned a lot of these lessons just a bit too late. And all I can do is hope that with this new like Tokyo Xanadu project, they learn, and maybe they try to push for a closer like Western release date than whatever we get in Japan for that. But I don't know. It sounds like I'm like all sad, but as someone who just plays the games, I'm having a pretty good time.
That's good. You know, I'm glad people can enjoy them, even if the fan base is rancid. Not, you know,
no,
maybe
I
they're
just don't
good.
engage with them.
Yeah, you're normal, Cullen. Because I remember when I was like, I'm reviewing Cold Steel 4, and you were like, why would they do that to you?
I was like, oh no, that's not good.
Yeah.
Looking in the distance, no, wait.
And now we're buds.
Yeah. Yahoo.
Yahoo!
What's our next question?
Hopefully that answered your question, Sonia, and I hope I didn't just become deranged and go off topic. Okay, and our second question, which is 2 questions in one.
Yes.
Good old Sam has sent us some questions before. 2 unrelated questions. If you could have any piece of media relocalized, what would it be? And 2, how do you feel about / react to media reviews for super hyped games? Been thinking about this again in context of Shadows of Erdtree, which is getting as high or higher scores than Elden Ring, and it's brought back a lot of mixed feelings I haven't had since Final Fantasy 16 released a whole year ago. On one hand, I understand giving reviews to super fans, but on the other hand, I already know they're going to say 9 out of 10. Say it's a 9 out of 10. And that's going to happen a bunch. Kind of had to adapt that sentence a little bit. Anyways, thank you so much, Kazuma, for writing one of like 2 reviews that don't completely ignore why those games aren't for everyone. Sam.
Let's go with that first question, and then the second one.
Let's go with that first one, because I feel like the second one, it won't be heated, but I think we have a lot to discuss about that.
Yeah, I'm not going to be heating my response. I'm just going to, state some facts and shit. But first one.
Cosmo's like, I'm going to destroy you with facts and logic, actually, Cullen.
First one, Legend of Dragoon. Actually, no, Digimon World. That localization was so dog shit. So bad. I would love to see Digimon World relocalized and made into a better game.
It's Xenogears for me. That script is so bad. It hurts the enjoyment of the story to a significant degree.
You can't even understand what Digimon World is saying in English.
I would argue kind of the same for Xenogears.
Oh shit, really?
Xenogears' localization is quite bad. It was done by one guy who did his best, but unfortunately he was super crunched on it. So it's just kind of nonsensical. There's apparently a bunch of things just mistranslated. All of the dialogue reads terribly, so you cannot form like true like connections with any of the characters. Reader, listener, whatever, I'm sure you're like, oh, I did, and that's fair. That's fine. But
Kazuma's audio ruined the convo.
Excellent. Okay, continue, Cullen.
I don't even remember what I was. I forgot my rant.
It was Xenogears.
The script bad. Not good script. Made by one guy in like a year. I feel bad for him. Script bad. Port game. Relocalized script. Make script good.
Please.
I'm gonna add to the Digimon thing and say Digimon Story Cyber Sleuth needs a better localization.
Yes.
Oh, was it bad?
It's super bad. It reads like MTL.
Text literally runs off the screen.
GC, did you know there's actually a fan retranslation of that entire game?
There is?
Wouldn't you love to play it?
Yeah.
Get your Vita out.
It's on Vita only?
They only patched it on Vita.
Vita means life.
Yeah. When I heard that, I was like, oh, cool. And I went to go download it on my Steam library to play it on my Steam Deck. And I was like, no, you don't understand, Cullen. I'm like, all right. Because I agree with you. Those games are so cool, but the script, it's a similar issue with Xenogears, where it's like, I want to love these games so much, but the scripts are fucking dog shit, and the localization is not well implemented. What is it with Bandai and giving like Digimon games bad localizations? Did
I think
either
they
of you
just
play
think-
Survive?
No, I played Digimon World, and then I played one on like the PlayStation 4.
Survive was like their long, like the strategy RPG they worked on for like years and years and years, and the script is just bad. It's just really awkward, and sometimes they left
That's
in
sad.
like certain bits of like the strings to like signify certain things, so characters will just like, I think there was a line I saw, it's like, this character is not here for this scene or something. It's been years.
That's
It's a
really
very
sad.
messy localization that just bummed me the fuck out.
I wonder if it's because Digimon doesn't make a lot of money in America.
Maybe. Like there was a Digimon manga recently that they just like MTL'd. And it's like, what is wrong with you, Bandai? Why do you do
Man.
this?
There's a very vocal fan base of Digimon. Like there's very vocal Digimon fans here in the West. If you like properly like took the time to like translate some of their Digimon stuff, they would have a lot of fans pushing those games in people's faces. But it's very hard to recommend Digimon games when they are localized in the state that they are. And I hate to say that.
Yeah, like I love those games, and I would never recommend them to somebody because I'm like, it's just a bunch of gobbledygook. You're never gonna get what's going on.
Yeah.
Man.
Now, part 2.
Sucks.
Elden Ring. So I didn't talk about this earlier because I was going to talk about this question, but I played Elden Ring and I reviewed Elden Ring. A game that I think is just fine. A game that I think... Do you guys care about spoilers at all?
Yes. For the DLC? Yes.
Okay, well, I'm just going to say there's... You remember how in, like, From Software's catalog of, like, you know, Dark Souls and Elden Ring and, like, Bloodborne, like, all their Souls-like games, there's, like, this reoccurring theme about, you know, like, women being mothers.
Yes.
And like that sort of being their role of being the life giver, the life giver, the maternal figure, the mother, right? They kind of crank that up to like 10 in the DLC, except they use a lot of like derogatory gendered language towards women, and like their children in relation to like this struggle for power. And I only got to know a bunch of this because of an optional quest that I completed. So, you know, it's kind of like tucked away outside of some lady calling somebody a strumpet, which I was like, that's interesting. Okay. We don't know what a strumpet is. It's calling someone a whore. Just fancy way to call someone a whore. Very English way of calling someone a whore. I think it's fine. I think there's some interesting bits of lore there. Things that feel really inspired, not by what Martin has written, but by what appears in Game of Thrones, just in the way that there's like a really big dragon that's called the Dread, and I'm like, oh, it's Balerion the Dread. Performance issues, it weirdly runs better on my 3060 than it did on my 3080 Ti. I didn't have any crashes, but I did have the, you know, your game freezes and speeds up and frames are inconsistent in a game that relies on frames. I don't think that's great. That actually hampers the enjoyment with the game. Game is really fucking difficult. Granted, I did start at level 120. Someone I know asked someone how they were doing. They said they were breezing through it. Their character was over level 200. So it varies, right?
Yeah.
And I was also reviewing it, and that means I had to speed through the game. I had to really get through it. So I was fucking putting my nose to the grindstone and getting my ass beat for 8 hours a day, to the point that if you guys want to know what it's like reviewing a game like this in such a short period of time after SGF and like doing a bunch of appointments and having several other jobs, my eyes have been swollen shut every morning since that review went live.
Ouch.
Yeah.
Like, I have like red eyes, and I was having red eyes while reviewing it, and it was just like playing Elden Ring was like experiencing actually getting like scarlet rot in real life.
So immersive.
My body was, yeah, oh yeah, well, hashtag immersive. But in terms of like code distribution and, you know, reviewers who do like Souls games getting to play these games, I actually like Souls games. And I like action games. And that's why that game got assigned to me by Silicon Era, like when the game first released, because I was the guy that covered all the action games. And I was like, oh, I'm really interested in Elden Ring. I like, you know, Game of Thrones. I do like Dark Souls. I love Bloodborne. So it came to me. Usually when a site handles codes, and I can say this from personal experience, it will usually be given to someone that has a history of playing these games. They usually won't give it to someone completely out of left field because they want someone that will sort of talk about the game in the capacity of being an expert. Because whenever you write a review, you are usually not allowed to say, I'm not an expert in this, but I really enjoyed it, because you need to present yourself as being an authority. I'm probably saying things that people shouldn't know, but are just common sense and sort of like what you would expect. So when you see a lot of glowing reviews from people that really enjoy these games, it's because, yeah, they have a history of enjoying these things. They're the person that the code would usually go to for various reasons, probably because, you know, they have a save file ready. They have a storied history reviewing these kinds of games. It's their speciality, etc., etc. My reviews come from just, you know, my perspective in general, like how I view things, which is going to be different from somebody else, right? For me, performance really matters. I'm not saying it doesn't matter for other people, but performance really matters for me because I am very fucking poor. And if I buy a game and it doesn't work, that's like $60 to $70 down the drain that I could have used to maybe go out and do something with friends, right? So that's why that really impacts this. Because I remember somebody was getting like really mad at me for scoring Baldur's Gate 3 really low, and I was like, that game barely functions, and it's like $60. That's like a month worth of groceries for me, you know? Like, I could be saving that money using it for practical things as opposed to a game that's like busted, right? And in terms of like narrative quality, I will be the first person to admit that I'm really tired of the misogyny in From Software games, and it's really exhausting to this point that I wish they would do literally anything else than like cosmic vagina, divinity, motherhood, life giver. So I think it's like a culmination of things for me as to why I gave it the score it did. But other people really like the world building. They really like the lore. They find it fascinating. They love to go digging into the nitty gritty and see what they can find. They have a build that really complements the way that this DLC is played. Or they're just, you know, like having a good time. So they're going to write about it that way, right? Like, for example, we're bringing up Final Fantasy 16 again, right?
Always comes back to it, huh?
Because Cullen likes 16 and I don't like 16, but we're still friends, right?
Well,
we just view what?
What?
Huh?
Huh?
but we just we view things differently, right? And I think that's totally fine. Like, I think it's great that Cullen likes 16 because he finds enjoyment in it. Me, I don't care for it. I think Clive is super hot, but I don't really care for it. But I think it's great when Cullen likes it because I like to see why he likes it and understand the reason why he likes it, right? Like why it was, you know, why he has such high opinions of it, as opposed to me where I'm just like kicking rocks, you know, getting ready to like roll up to Square Enix and be like boo or whatever. That's gross overestimation of what I actually do in any circumstance. But
it's
you just have to, yeah.
Well, like I forget where I first heard this, but it's something I've always really held dear to me since I have heard it. But like, reviews should be a conversation between like the writer and you. It should not be a way to like validate your own opinions.
Yes.
But at the same time, what you should be doing is not being like, oh, Silicon Era gave this game a 7. What you should be like is, okay, Kazuma, a writer whose work I am familiar with, or I could click on the name and then see what these opinions are, like other opinions on other games. This, like you should be able to get the taste of a reviewer, yum, 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 you know, like you should be able to figure out their taste and then see like, okay, how much does their taste line up with me? And then you can see this review will have merit and will help me decide if I want to buy this game because I trust this reviewer. Our opinions typically line up. And so I will know if this is worth it to me. And that's why I don't like looking at scores too much. I want to see the words. I want to know what this person liked or did not like about this. And this is why I also think that those like big glowing 10 out of 10s, they are worth it to people. I don't know if they'd be worth it to me. I'm not going to read any reviews of this game, but they will have value because there are a lot of people who like Elden Ring unconditionally. And I think that's fine. Granted, maybe they should have like divvied out review codes to more like outlets. I did hear that not a lot of people got codes. A lot of content creators got codes. That's like a whole different discussion. But at the same time,
we hate influencers here. We don't, but I mean, we do.
But like
we don't.
Those people are speaking to an established audience who thinks similar to them by default. And for some reason, we view written reviews as something else entirely when they have just as much personality as like anything else. It's just they're perhaps maybe written a bit more professionally or whatnot. Everyone's like, oh, it's cool if this content creator thinks this is glowing or whatnot. But, oh, it's fucked up that this like this review was paid off, but this content creator was not. It's like, no, at the end of the day, it is all about like conveying to your audience what you think and hoping that they have the like emotional intelligence to be like, okay, I know why. Like, if you don't agree with
and just to be clear, we're not accusing you of having this behavior.
No.
Yeah.
But like it happened with like FF16. It's happening with Elden Ring, and it's like I do think there is merit to getting more like people who maybe don't like or like something, or maybe wouldn't like, or this is like their first thing. Maybe not Elden Ring because it's a DLC. To like it's why Elden Ring's in a bit weirder of a position, because to play this DLC you need to like be a decent chunk into Elden Ring. You
need to find an optional boss that a lot of people find hard.
Yeah.
Like I steamrolled, so like my opinion of that is like super different, right? Where I'm like, oh, it was super easy for me to get there, and like I know people, Jake for example, was like really struggling with that boss. So like again, like when we talk about these Souls games specifically, the experience can also be so fucking varied. Like last night, GC beat a boss that in like 2 tries it took me an entire day to beat. And that will like actually impact how you feel about something, right? Because like I was like frustrated, and by the time that I beat it, I was like, this isn't rewarding to me because it wasted a whole day of like review time for me. This fucking sucks. I basically throwing myself against a wall for like 8 hours, etc. And like, you know, if I had beaten it 4 hours or something, I would have been a lot happier. Again, there are things that were also added to the game post-launch that I would have praised it for. For example, the recent items tab.
Yeah,
but that's not the version of the game that I played.
No, and it's honestly, even just mentioning this is making me kind of understand why they probably only sent copies out to super fans, because I think I read trophy percentages, and apparently only like 39% of people have actually fought the boss that lets you play the DLC.
Yeah, because one of them is totally optional in like a secret area. And I also made something about review scores, by the way, because you mentioned them. Keep in mind that every site basically changes how they categorize scores. What a Silicon Era gives a 7 is not what MMORPG would give a 7, right? No. And I write for both those sites. So you really like, the scores don't mean anything, right? Numbers don't matter. They're made up.
Yes. Having said that, I would prefer, and I'm an optimistic person. I think I see the best in people. I will always assume people are using the full scale from like 1 to 10. So a 7 is a thing that is like good.
Yeah,
like
it's fine.
5 is average. Most of the games we get nowadays are like 7s, like in the 7 to 10 range, because video games have become standardized and people know what people like or don't. And there's a lot less stinkers that come out.
Yeah, a lot of games are actually quite technically proficient. That's why I think, like, for example, if I played Final Fantasy 16 and I had to rate it, I would have to consider that even though I do not like the story and I think the writing is really bad, I would still give it a score that would reflect how technically proficient that game is. because it is probably one of the most polished games I played that year.
Yeah, it's
By comparison to literally everything else.
and that's why like I struggled so much scoring 16, and I went with 8 because I leaned, like, I was positive on the story for like it hit all the notes I needed at the time, and I thought that like the gameplay polish was really impressive, and I thought the journey was like a lot of fun. But like I feel like with 16 we got a lot of like mixed like 6s to 8s, didn't we?
We did, but I think it was overblown because you know what Square Enix did instead of doing. We're never gonna get fucking sponsored by anybody. Square Enix made an influencer accolades trailer before they made a press accolades trailer.
Oh yeah, I remember because I was playing the game and they'd had a whole
Yes.
influencer preview event.
Yes.
And I was
And
like
then-
seeing people like post from it, and I was just like, oh, I'm like halfway through the game. That's crazy.
Yeah, and it was instead of being like this game got a 10 out of 10 from like Destructoid or IGN, it was a bunch of influencers that were talking about how good the game was and everything, and I was like, that's a really weird pivot for accolades. That reminded me of like the live action Avatar series where they were like pulling Twitter quotes
Oh god.
over actual like over actual like publications and outlets. But yeah, that's where I think people really thought that 16 had loads of positive reception because social media was sort of telling you that people were really in love with the game, even though it was pretty divisive as a mainline entry.
That's why like the sales just show that.
Yeah.
Like as much as I like that game, I'm not gonna tell you it wasn't divisive. It
was very
super
divisive.
was. And like, yeah, a lot of reviewers didn't know what to make of it. And I read a lot of like really good, like I think I read as many good 10 out of 10s as I did 6 out of 10s on that game. Because there was so much you can get from the people who talk about it. And the cynical take on that is like, oh, the people give that game 10s. They're like, they're uncritical. They don't think straight. They're like, you know, they're just dumb. They love everything in front of them to be exciting. But it's like, it's a different kind of like, they're both criticism, but you can see like what works for people. Like, and you can see why the 10s gave at least the like well-written 10 out of 10 scores for 16, why they gave it that score. If you really read the words they say, and you get you get a feel for what kind of person that is. And then you can decide right there, I would not like this. Like, I don't agree with this person. I do not like I would not think these things. And then you can decide, well, if I see another review by them, then chances are I probably wouldn't like this. Or I could say, do they like this game? Maybe I should be skeptical in the future. And to your point on like how like code assignments typically happen. Yes, you are right. Typically there is a guy. Fun fact, at RPG site, I am the Switch port guy. So if they get a Switch port and they're like, Cullen, you want this? Like, or like, I think I'm Dragon Quest guy adjacent. But oftentimes they will try to give a code to someone who might not have as much experience. And that's why I do like our editor so much. He's not going to read this, so I can praise him as much as he's not going to listen to this, so I can praise him as much as I want. But there is an effort to try to give people things outside of their comfort zone every once in a while. But for something like Elden Ring, it is literally impossible. You like this DLC, you cannot give it to just a random person because a random person probably will not buy this DLC.
And they probably won't have a save file that's ready to go.
No.
And they won't have... I can't say how long I had to review that game. But my god. Scarlet rot of my eyes. My Shibiri grapes or whatever the fuck they're called.
I am very happy that I have made the conscious decision to not even touch this DLC until it is like way like away from this initial hype of it.
Yes.
And just not hear anything about it. Start a fresh Elden Ring save and just go through it all and see what I truly think about that game. Because I like Elden Ring. I think it's my favorite From game, if only because it's the furthest I've ever gotten in any of their games. But, you know, I can even say that it looks like they're kind of... I don't want to be dramatic and say they're like stagnating, but I hope that whatever they make next is truly like something different.
I've played... Okay, so like my history with From is I like Tenchu, I like Kuon, I like Armored Core, I like Dark Souls. Now I really like Evergrace. Evergrace is fucking awesome, by the way. Thank you.
Yeah. I'm always right.
And yeah, you are. I will say that Cullen is always right. Always listen to Cullen.
Yep.
He has that white boy intuition. But I think I was mostly fine with Elden Ring base game because I found my little Blorbo and like attached to him, you know? And everything surrounding that character and certain factions were cool enough to make me not give the game a lower score than a 7 because I was like, there's some enjoyment here. There are some narrative things that I enjoy, even if this is the same weird misogyny that we get in other From games by Miyazaki. That for the DLC, it's just like there's a lot of contradictory stuff in it. There's a lot of stuff that feels shoehorned in. There's a lot of stuff that reminds me about comments Miyazaki made when they were talking about making Dark Souls 3. And I'm just not like a fan. I just want whatever he does next to maybe be completely out of pocket.
I really hope so.
Maybe like a modern action game. I don't know. Like, I mean, we're set in like modern times, but there's something fucked up about it.
Do something sci-fi.
Yeah.
Armored Core.
Yeah, that's true.
Make more Armored Core.
Like more
Yay.
Armored Core.
But like right there is the value in reviews like yours, because there's probably people like Sam who were like, okay, well, I didn't really care for Elden Ring. I need reviews like this. And then like he was able to find your review. And then that tells him immediately like, okay, someone I can trust and whose opinion aligns with mine. I can see maybe there could be something here for me. Maybe like you might mention something that he'll go, oh, wait, that's neat. Or, oh, okay, cool. I'm glad I didn't bother with this.
Yeah.
And maybe we're yapping too much on this topic, but I do think it's very interesting. And it's why I really wish there's more nuanced discussion around game reviews, because when a writer writes something from like a point of passion, which like even like I would say your Elden Ring review likely has that, because you're still coming from a long history with these games. You have a lot to say because you know what you like and don't like about FromSoft. It's like there's always so much to get from that, more than just, oh, it's a 7, I think you should die.
The point of a review, and I think this is something a lot of people forget, the point of a review is not to convince you to play the game or to buy the game. The point of the review is to give people information that allows them to make their own decisions on whether or not they want to buy the game.
Yeah, to make an informed purchase.
And that is why we need many reviews covering many different perspectives across a broad spectrum of opinions about games. Because the point of having a review that resonates with me is not so I can feel good about playing the game and patting myself on the back to say, ah, yes, I have good taste. Here, look, here is a written article about the game that I bought that I like that proves that I have good taste. The point of a review is so that people who don't know if they want something can make a decision as to whether or not they want that thing.
And I think when you talk about like the variety of experiences and stuff, I've definitely actually had people approach me at like events being like, hey, I really appreciate like the work you do because I get to see things from a different like perspective, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like I write from the perspective of like a member of like the Japanese community, a member of the Japanese diaspora. So my thoughts and feelings on Japanese media is going to be vastly different from somebody that isn't of that lived experience, which is why we do need more reviewers and we need more outlets and we need more perspectives.
Yes.
So people can sort of like for example, remember my community linked me a piece that Gita Jackson wrote about Dragon Age Inquisition and how their experience playing a Kunari and their interactions with Solus reminded them of growing up as a black person around like non-black people, which I thought was like really interesting. And like having things like that, like, and having these things being part of like reviews and whatnot, talking about these finer aspects of storytelling or mechanics and how that related to like their experience, I think is really integral, because you're also understanding a piece of art from a different perspective and you're learning something new.
And
along with, you know, how good the audio is and shit, you know?
Yeah. And
Sorry.
So go for it.
Oh no, I was just gonna say, and like, yeah, it's like I wish people were not so quick to like shun those new perspectives because even your review on Cold Steel 4 said something to someone who maybe also was just like, oh, what's a Cold Steel? Oh, they made a new one. Let me look at this, and that tells them immediately if they read that, be like, oh, maybe this is probably too confusing to jump in here, like stuff like that. We need to stop getting mad at these perspectives that don't align with with ours. And we need to just be willing to hear people out because I promise you, your franchise is going to be okay if someone doesn't like it as much as someone else.
Yeah, I think I'm like one of the lowest review scores, and I wasn't even like, this game sucks, peh, or whatever, you know? It was just like, oh, game's fine. It's more Elden Ring if you like Elden Ring.
Yeah, I'll take it a step further here and I'll say, you know what? Content creators, influencers, and I'm gonna speak to them directly now. And this is just me. These are just my words. There's no one else's words here. If video game companies are going to start soliciting you to talk about their game, or if they're going to start asking you to cover their game, you need to start taking that seriously. And you need to provide like an honest opinion. And you need to think critically about what it is you're covering, because people are going to base their purchases off of what you're saying. And you have a responsibility to provide them something that they can use to do that with. And I understand that there's a perspective in the content creation community with this idea of like, I like this thing, I'm going to talk about the things I like. I wouldn't take this sponsorship if I didn't like the thing that I like. But you have to understand that you are being exploited by video game companies to fool other people into making purchase decisions.
Yes.
That is what you are being used for. And you have a responsibility.
But consider they get a bag.
Yeah, of course. But you have to accept that you have a certain responsibility to your audience to provide something useful to them. And you cannot just you can't there is an ethical challenge in being asked to cover something or talk about something and being pressured to talk about it positively because you don't want to get blacklisted or you don't want to be ignored by that company in the future. If that is your fear, you are thinking about this the wrong way. You need to consider who you want to be in the good graces of.
That's legitimately why I stopped being an influencer, by the way.
It should always be the consumer too. Like,
yeah,
you should not be like so worried about pissing off corporations.
Yeah. Because if everyone plays ball and we all start being critical and we all start covering things in earnest and we say, hey, there's things I didn't like about this. Hey, you should be aware that, this is this or this is that. Then those companies have to play ball. They have to play by our rules because otherwise they don't get coverage. And the reason why a lot of outlets are losing coverage and the reason why a lot of outlets are closing and there's less reviewers now is because these video game companies realize that they can go to influencers and they can give influencers a free copy of their game, and the influencer is going to sit there and talk really pretty and say lots of flowery words about their game, and they don't have to worry about getting critical feedback or critical takes from those influencers. They are using you, they are exploiting you. You are worth more than that. Do not just give them what they want. If you like the game a lot and you did have a good time with it and whatever, and that's what you want to talk about, fine, do that, whatever. But what I'm saying is, do not just take whatever deal a company gives you to get your bag if it means sacrificing the integrity that you should be having with an audience of X amount.
Well said.
Yeah.
You ate. No crumbs.
Gotta set some standards.
Please, God, we need to set standards. Like I consider myself a content creator, and it's like it's really it scares me the lack of standards that we have in this community. It bothers me to a really deep degree because we started doing this sort of stuff. Like a lot of like early content creators were very pro-consumer and they were very anti-corporation. And they were very like about, looking out for for consumers and being like, hey, look, this is stuff that no one else is talking about this game. Hey, look, this is something that we should be more attuned in. And that's all gone now in favor of clout chasing, in favor of being in the good graces of corporations and companies. Like, you need to stop. We need to stop adhering to that trend. We need to stop adhering to that, in my opinion. And like, we need to have standards. We need to have consistency in those standards, and we need to stop doing what we're doing now.
We need to legitimately, like, again, like you said, if we just all tag team,
Like,
we can't
seriously,
really ignore it, right?
if bigger names had bigger balls, we wouldn't be in this situation.
Yeah, I think it, like, the reason, like what you talked about earlier was like part of the reason why I stopped being an influencer was because I was being asked to basically like shill for products I didn't like, and then that burned all the bridges I had made. But again, like influencer and like content creator, like activations and stuff, I'm seeing like a fucking marketing person now, are so important to a game's release that if like people are like even slightly more critical as to what they're consuming and actually offer some sort of meaningful constructive criticism as opposed to I just love the thing, I think we would just be in a better spot. I'm just mirroring what you said. I
Yeah.
agree with you, GC. You're so smart.
I want to say, like, I don't understand why this is the case, but I don't think there needs to be a divide between influencers and reviewers. I don't understand why they're so often put against each other.
I mean, I can
They're
tell
so
you why.
often- Huh?
I mean, I can tell you why. It's like, it's cynical, but like it is very much like, because it started from the whole, like when YouTube influencers started like growing in prominence in the 2010s, it was very easy to just point over there and be like, hey guys, you might not know me, but that guy over there, that guy no good. Me good. And it started this like back and forth like feud pretty much of like influencers always need to be like those evil reviewers. They don't want to do good by you. They're tricking you. They're lying to you. And then you'll see a 7 and be like, oh, well, it seems like they're having a nuanced opinion, or like a 7 or an 8 and be like, no, that's no good. They're lying to you again. It's just bullshit. It's just people wanting to put others down to lift themselves up.
Yeah, and we need to stop doing that. I think we need to stop pitting reviewers and content creators against each other, because they are also, if we're gonna go with the term content creator, which I don't like, but
I don't
it is
either,
what
but
it is.
that is what it is now.
Reviewers are content creators. They are under this huge umbrella. They are, and like and we need to stop pitting YouTubers against this. YouTubers need to stop antagonizing them. If that is happening on the other way around, that needs to stop happening too. Everyone is being exploited. Everyone is being taken advantage of in this situation. The only person that's coming out like on top are the companies and the executives that want that feud, that want to take advantage of that in order to generate good press for their game. And the goal should not be to generate good press for their game. The goal should be to have honest opinions and honest perspectives about the products that people are going to consume, and to protect those people from purchasing products that they maybe will not have a good time after they purchase it, or preventing them from making a purchase they're going to regret. Anyway.
Wow, a 3-hour one for Cullen to edit.
Yay, Cullen! Yay! Well, where can we find the podcast, Cullen?
Well, where you're listening to it right now.
Cullen, what? GC, can you do the outro? My stomach
You
hurts.
can find us on Twitter at Burnout Culture Podcast. You can find us on YouTube at Burnout Culture. You can find us on Spotify by searching BURNOUT space CULTURE space backspace search, and
That
you
was
can
correct. You
find.
spelled it right. I just want to make sure.
Ooh, thank God! I was so scared. And if you want to find me, you can find me in a forest nearby.
I'm there with you, buddy.
All right, cool. Yeah,
You
fuck
can
social
find me
media.
on YouTube at GC Vasquez. You can find me on Twitter at GC_Vasquez. I put out a new video today. You should go watch it.
You did. It was
Yay.
good. I was in it.
Yeah, you can find me at Kazuma on Blue Sky, just as Kazi _ on Twitter and Kagenaga on Twitch if you ever want to see me have some absolutely rancid takes. Not really, it's mostly just me going like, ooh, Game of Thrones, I like watching Game of Thrones. Or, ooh, I can't believe Ubisoft used the Yakuza font for their Assassin's Creed Shadows dubbing challenge.
I can't believe they did that.
Oh yeah, that fucking dubbing challenge is like, that's fucked. Don't do that.
Yeah.
Don't expect free labor.
Never do
in
anything
exchange
for free.
video game credit.
Speaking of
Yeah.
exploitation.
Yeah. All right, everybody. We'll see you next time, whenever the hell that is, which I
Toodaloo.
guess is in 2 weeks.
Take care, everybody.
All right,
Bye-bye.
bye-bye. I'm dumb. I'm dumb. I'm dumb. I'm dumb. I'm dumb. I'm dumb. I'm dumb.